Sad people in the friend zone. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. What would you do if a person you only want to be friends with is in love with you? Probably what 95% of girls do in that situation. Not notice that he's in love with me. Seriously, guys, unless you speak up, most girls just think you want to be friends. We can't read minds any more than you can. If you complain about girls saying things like, if you don't know why I'm mad, then I'm not going to tell you, which is hella dumb, then you can't get upset when things you say like, hey, I can give you a ride home, actually mean I'm deeply in love with you, want to make sweet love to you, and we should be together forever. But anyway, if the guy has stones and is brave and comes right out with it, I don't know, I'd try to let him down gently, I guess. Tell him in no uncertain terms that while I'm very fond of him, I have no intention of ever dating him. He's a great friend, like a brother to me, but that's as far as the relationship is ever going to go. And, if he kind of stopped hanging around after that, I'd be sad. But I'd understand and try to respect his decision or boundaries. If he's as great as all that, I'd probably try to introduce him to my lady friends and see if he clicks with any of them. I'd still invite him out to group things, and hopefully the friendship could survive it. If not, then he's doing the right thing for both of us. It's a bummer, but it's the only outcome if platonic friendship is too hard for him. Introducing him to your lady friends after a confession? That's like handing over a consolation prize. Sorry you didn't win my heart, but here's a voucher for a friend's affection. Story 2. I am so tired of hearing people complain about being friend-zoned. If you have made your intentions clear and she refused, then make the decision to either remain friends or cut off contact with her. If you do decide to remain friends, this does not mean I'll remain friends with her until she sees the error of her ways, and in the meantime she better not expect any effort on my part to maintain this friendship we have, because she doesn't deserve it unless she goes out with me. That's not how friendship works. Also, girls are not mind readers any more than you are. If you haven't said anything about your feelings, then it is not reasonable to expect her to just know. Being friendly to someone she considers a friend and expecting you to be friendly in return is not leading you on. What are girls supposed to do? Preface all possible opposite gender friendships with, just for the record, I have no interest in dating you? That's a good way to ruin a friendship before it even starts. Yes, some people get off on mistreating people who pine for them, but sometimes your situation is due to your own cowardice and selfishness. Story 3. No one is going to see this comment, but here it goes. For me, the friend zone isn't about obliviousness or about a guy not having the courage to tell a girl how he feels. Friend zoning is a verb, albeit a non-existent one, and someone can't be accused of performing a verb if they aren't actually doing something. Simply not falling in love with you isn't friend zoning you. That's like saying that not playing baseball is a sport called not-ball or something incredibly stupid. To me, friend zoning is something that comes about in younger couples when they are unable to articulate what it is they want. There's nothing wrong with not being physically attracted to someone or finding their personality too abrasive, or any valid excuse you can think of to not date someone. The problem arises when person A expresses interest in person B, and person B turns them down, citing no valid reason. Oh, you're great, cute, and you'll find someone awesome someday, but I'm not that person. Isn't a reason. All it's going to do is cause psychological damage in the recipient as they struggle to find what it is that's wrong with themselves and work furiously to reverse it for your approval. You're not doing anyone any favors or sparing their feelings by telling them, you're wonderful, but you're not the one. Be honest. Story 4. I'm really glad this is a question today because it's been on my mind as of late. So basically, this is a slight on-topic rant. You've been warned. I know you all seem to hate this, but it is relevant in this case. I'm a lady here, 20 years old. I'm not attractive by any means, but I wouldn't say I'm ugly either. I've never much tried to impress guys. Through school, I wore what was comfy because why sit in these awkward clothes all day to try and score some schmuck that I'd break up with in a few years and never see again? But now that I've moved away, I can dress nicer without the entire town lining up to see what I look like in a dress or with makeup on. For a while, I complained. Blah blah, guys don't like me, it's not fair. Eventually, I got over it. Later in life, I find out most people just assume I'm not straight because I like guy stuff. But whatever, I've been friend-zoned by every guy I've ever had a thing for. It's okay though, because why mess up an awesome friendship for some awkward intimacy? And then I found Reddit, the magical land of men who think all women are arrogant schmucks. All you people ever talk about is how you can hit on girls anywhere, just don't be ugly. Like you are any better. You're so clueless. I'm sure you actually have girls lined up behind you. I'm sure everyone does. But we're too busy focusing on that one person that just doesn't feel it. And don't go saying that girls never try and that girls should make a move if they feel something. I'm pretty sure that I can't be the only lady in the world who tries. It's impossible, though. At least for me, and it's too bad, but hey, it's their loss in the end. I smile and say hello or good morning if I see people in my walks because I know that when someone just says good morning to me, I'm happy for the rest of the day. Treat others as you wish to be treated, right? I'd say I get 2 or 3 acknowledgements back every month. And even then, 2/3 are put off by the fact that I've inconvenienced them so much as to say hello. But to address the question, yes, I get it. It can be hard as hell knowing a friend is in love with you. I suspect that a kid I went to high school with had a bit of a thing for me, but he never said anything. Thank God. We were friends and hung out quite a lot, but he was 2 years younger than I was and was also quite the late bloomer. He looked like a 12-year-old, and it felt awkward being around him. After I graduated and moved away, he confirmed that he did, in fact, have a thing for me. I still feel bad for not sharing those feelings. Story 5. I've been there. Disclaimer, I've never and would never go out with a girl unless she was a friend first. I don't see what's so bad with the friend zone thing. I've been asked out by 6 girls, unless I'm forgetting any, in my sweet short life, 23, and turned down all but one of them. I only ever asked out one girl, my current girlfriend, but I was held at a metaphorical threat and I knew the answer before I asked, so I don't know if it counts. The first one I gave one of those I see you more like a sister lines. What a messed up thing to say. I wish I could have been more honest back then. 8th grade around and just said that I didn't want a girlfriend. I was extremely shy. The other ones were just, no thanks, don't want to date you, deal with it, sort of responses. I don't see the issue, really. If you like me, that's neat. I'm flattered. But I'm not going to ever feel anything necessarily reciprocal, and that should be fine, too. It's simple. You can admire poetry, architecture, and flowers without doing them. You don't suddenly get to go to the moon just because you like the moon. You can express your feelings for me. That's fine. But you certainly better not feel entitled to having me as your boyfriend just because you like me. If you can accept that, what's the problem? Your love for me is the same as my love for the moon. Story 6. When I was in high school or college, I'm married now, I was pursued quite a lot and put about 95% of people in the friend zone. And the number one reason for that was being awkward. Seriously, nothing's more of a turnoff than a guy who you can tell wants your thing, but he's too much of a wuss to be like, I want to be inside you. I only ever gave guys a chance who had the confidence to tell me like it is. I had tons of guys who would randomly bring me flowers and gifts, but never say, I like you. Or if they did, it was way, way too late in the game, and they had already been permanently friend-zoned. Seriously, awkward. If you make me feel weird about being around you, I'm not going to date you. My first boyfriend was ugly, but he was a class clown type and very good with words. He was up in my face about what he wanted. Meanwhile, nice guys came to me all the time, but the only time they ever admitted their interest in me was over online chat. Gross. I married a guy who asked me out as soon as he knew I was available. Nice guys finish last when they only confess their feelings through a screen. Real life is where the magic happens, folks. Story 7. I'm a guy who spent large amounts of time in the friend zone with various ladies. It was really awful at the time, but now that I'm older and wiser, yeah, right. I see that it was pretty much my own fault the entire time. Growing up a fat guy, I didn't always have confidence. I felt that if I didn't have a girl really get to know me first, I'd be dismissed immediately. Thus began the vicious cycle. The thing about being friend-zoned is it doesn't just happen overnight. In my experience, it happens mostly when the person being friend-zoned knew from the beginning they had feelings for the person and was too scared to act on it, most likely fearing rejection. Even though they're too shy or scared to make a move, they still want to be around that person and get through their guard in hopes that they get that one moment when everything feels right and they go for it. The problem then becomes, they've spent all that time and effort showing they could be this great and awesome person, and now it could have been either a swift rejection or acceptance, depending on the situation. Now it just turns into an awkward situation for all involved. In my honest opinion, most people that are doing the friend zoning feel terrible about it, but what choice do they have? You put all of your effort into getting him or her to see you as a friend and not another schmuck. Then when he or she actually warms up to you, your true feelings come out and you find out you're stuck in the friend zone. While this may not be the case for every friend zone situation, I think this is the case in most. If you want to avoid it, make your feelings known up front. If it works out, awesome. If not, you decide if you want to be friends or walk away. Saves you both heartache in the long run. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 8. I've had a few friends develop crushes on me. It's awful, especially when that person already is a good friend. It's different than some random person who likes you where it's not a big deal to say, sorry, I'm just not interested in you the same way. When it's a friend who you genuinely want to keep around, what can you do? It just feels best to say, sorry, insert girl's name here, but I only care about you as a friend and hope things don't change between us. Not because it's a nice thing to say, but because that's what I genuinely want. But things are usually too awkward to continue on being friends anyway, which is really terrible. This is why people who are in love with their best friends and others urge them to speak their minds and tell them how they feel. I always say, whoa, pump the brakes. If you really want to get it off your chest that badly, be prepared to possibly lose them as a friend for good. Because even if you think you can remain friends with them if you get rejected, every single time they go on a date with someone else or spend time with other people, you're going to feel mistreated and jealous. Being just friends with someone you'd like to be something more with is a bad spot to be in. And even worse if they know your intentions. Story 9. Personal experience, been on both sides. What I notice is that it's never black and white. There's no absolutes. There are girls and guys out there who do like the attention and are straight up manipulative by nature. There are also people who, for whatever reason, aren't attracted to the person. I've dated guys who are perfect on paper, so to speak. Funny, attractive, sweet. But for some reason, the spark just wasn't there. You can't help who we're attracted to, even if it doesn't make any sense. There are a couple guys in my life who I think I can safely say I would never, ever date. And they have told me they feel the same way about me. There was one person who I was just friends with for years before falling in love with him. I've just experienced or witnessed too many different situations to say that there are set rules for letting people down. Generally, as a girl, I know that guys say they prefer to be let down quickly with no nonsense. But I've tried that before and it blew up in my face. And then there are times when I was scared of hurting him by rejecting him flat out, and that felt awful too. It depends on the people, the situation, etc. Too many variables to consider. Story 10. I find it a bit appalling how many people here have a one-sided view of these types of relationships. From highly rated comments in this thread, I can determine that people think that someone friend-zones another person if they're disinterested, or if the person doesn't show interest. That's it? That's all the possibilities you guys could think up? What about the guy who is friend-zoned because they used to date and stopped, but he still likes her, but she's with someone else, and still expresses how much less emotionally fulfilled she is with a new guy than the friend? How about a girl who gets friend-zoned by a guy after making her intentions clear, then sleeping with him under the illusion that the interest was mutual, only to find out that the guy just wanted a friend with benefits? And let's not forget the guy who, after making his intentions known, gets turned down with a "I'm not looking for a relationship right now," leading him to believe that if he waits, that situation may change. And then there's the girl who gets friend-zoned by every guy she meets for years, until finally, she just gets tired of giving up and starts trying to push through that. All of this is human interaction, people. And as usual, Reddit has a habit of oversimplifying human behavior and trying to make easily followable protocols for such interactions. But it doesn't work. The truth is, some people get friend-zoned, and it's because they're deficient in some part of themselves, be it willingness to communicate or lack of attractiveness. And some people get friend-zoned because they're dealing with mean people, or people who don't understand the ways others react to their words, or because they happen to fall for someone who's willing to use their friends to relieve romantic stress. It's all a lot more complicated than anyone who claims to be friend-zoned is immature. Story 11. Before I start, I'm female, and I've been friend-zoned before myself, and I have friend-zoned other guys, intentionally or unintentionally. Consider this, though. I've known about guys who liked me and did nothing because I didn't find out through hints from them or what they did. Instead, I found out through a friend who accidentally blurted it out. I didn't want to walk up to them and be like, "Hey, so I heard you want to ask me out. How's that going for you?" A, that would be ridiculously awkward for me and the guy. B, he's sure to be mad at the person who told me. So instead, I let them do it in their own time. And sometimes they never had the courage to tell me. That's no fault of mine. I don't want to bring it up later because what if it's a silly crush and they're over it now? This question is extremely relevant to the situation I'm in right now. A person I consider my closest friend revealed that he may very well be in love with me, but I have a boyfriend who I'm happy with. In my case, I'm one of those people who would say no if you ask me out of the blue, and reconsider or give you a chance later. He never asked, so I never said anything for his sake. The friend zone isn't just a one-way street. It's a roundabout where everyone gets lost eventually. Communication is key, but sometimes it's just not there. Story 12. Hey, also bear in mind here, a significant amount of this website, if I'm gathering this correctly from a lot of the Rage comics, are like 13 to 17-year-olds. When I was that age, I was very inexperienced too. So I think a lot of the forever loners don't realize that they're still just kids. They'll get their shot one day. Or they're 20-somethings and never grew out of that mentality. Also, from experience, I can say that being a girl's friend before you date them never, ever works out. If you see a girl that you think is cute, just be straightforward about it. Don't wuss around that thing. Because by the time you get the courage to say anything, she's going to already have you established in her mind as a friend, and not as dating material. People tend to decide what they think of you within the first time being around you. So if you don't decide you like a girl and really put on the charm, you've missed that window of opportunity. There are exceptions to that, but don't think that every girl that's put you in the friend zone is going to be that exception. It's just a big waste of everyone's time. Story 13. Let me tell you about my friend zone story. There was this girl at my work. She was really cute, awesome to be around. After a while, I started to realize I kind of had a thing for her, and she started to flirt with me. I've been stung a few times before, so I didn't think much of it since this girl was out of my league. Then one day, while intoxicated, she told me she really likes me. I was taken aback, but ecstatic. We talked about it. I was thrilled, happy, and she seemed to be too. My best friend, who I will call M, and I had a fight. We weren't talking at the time. It was a stupid fight, something that could have easily been fixed. After all, he was my first real best friend. This girl and I, let's call her T, ended up talking a lot. I had planned on making a move one weekend when we had the free time to meet up. She would leave me notes and flirt. I felt great. This was a girl who was out of my league but showed an interest in me. One night we were talking on the phone. This was after midnight. I was going to ask her out for the weekend. But all of a sudden she starts telling me about how I'm just another guy and that I'm nothing special to her. I was shocked. I asked her why she didn't tell me this earlier instead of putting me through all this. She couldn't give me a reason. T told me she had no intention of going out with me. Her friends told me that's how she is. She does that to guys who feign an interest in her. I was pretty angry at the time. I remember saying, "Whatever," and then hanging up the phone. I must have gone to bed after 2 a.m. The next day I got a call from a friend of mine, telling me my best friend ended himself. M sent a text to all our close friends except for me, saying goodbye and thank you for being a great friend. I was the only one who missed out. I got no letter, no goodbye. I was devastated. About a month later, I was talking to M's sister and she told me there was an attempt to call me that night. He ended himself on his phone. I checked back over my logs and found out I was on the phone to T at the time getting rejected. Her mind games cost me the last conversation with my best friend. What did he call me for? Who knows? I like to think it was to make amends before he did it, but I'll never know because I was too busy getting rejected by T. It took me a good year to get over the fact he didn't message me. T still flirted with me for a while afterwards, until I cut her out of my life. That was met with, "Why are you so mean to me?" Guys, what made you realize this girl is definitely not into me? Me and this girl at work used to talk a lot. I ended up catching major feelings for her because she was honestly an amazing person. She was a single mother, raising her son by herself. Her boyfriend left her because she wouldn't have a termination. He then slept with her two best friends and got one pregnant. This girl didn't give up though. She got a job. I worked there too, and that's how I met her. She was a full-time student. She was pursuing nursing and was in a full-time internship. She had an amazing personality, smile, and glow about her that far exceeded her physical looks. She was very attractive. She didn't know I liked her, but rumors quickly spread around the store, so I decided to tell her. She immediately removed me from her life. We would make up, then stop talking, make up, then start talking, over and over. This entire occurrence happened over the course of a few months. I admittedly was extremely hurt and angry because I had a nice guy mentality. I'd been thinking this way for years. That my actions warranted a girl's response. Now, I was never a simp, so to speak. I just didn't understand how girls would choose garbage guys, complain about it, and then do it again. Nonetheless, she broke the cycle for me. One day I was working on the floor. I was a manager, and the manager at this particular restaurant is usually in the middle of the floor where we can see and be a part of everything. I'm standing directly in front of the kitchen window. She's on the grill and starts talking loudly to the girl next to her. She's obviously trying to be heard. Everyone heard her. She's talking about how she's talking to this new dude, how she's so head over heels into this guy. I decided to walk away and be productive. I was sweeping the floor when she walked behind me and started showing pictures to the girls there. I assume she was simply trying to hurt me. I'm not innocent myself because we were malicious towards each other at this point. But from that moment on, I was done giving other people control over me. If you like me, let's do it. If you don't, whatever. I'm not crying over a rejection. I'm not allowing myself to feel entitled or anything. Girls have a right to accept or reject anyone. I may have gone too far in the other direction because I now remove a lot of people. I still believe she is an amazing person. I really want the best for her to this day, regardless of if she likes me or not. She doesn't even talk to me, but I've genuinely prayed for her and her son. I believe she was hurt and was going through a lot, so I can understand her pain and how she was handling it at the time. But I'm moving on and letting it go. One of the best things to ever happen to me. Next time, maybe just stick to the how's the weather small talk. Seems safer than diving into the how's your love life deep end. Story 2. Can I have time to think about it? Then nothing. Radio silence for like a month. Next time we talked, it's as if that moment never happened. I've had every rejection under the sun used on me. Laughter, straight up no, coming up with an excuse halfway through the date to leave, being ghosted. It's not you, it's me, etc. One even claimed that she liked me, but her parents didn't approve of me, so nothing could happen. Only to find out later that her parents actually thought I was great and would repeatedly ask her about me. In that case, I think she just wanted intimacy and nothing more, which I should have seen from the start. But that one, can I have time to think about it? Damn. I'm over it now, but I'll never forget how much it hurt. Plot twist, she's still thinking about it to this day. Story 3. My roommate encouraged me to ask this girl out. He said she really liked me, so I asked her out and set a dinner date. I picked her up, and at dinner, she barely responds to me. I ask questions about her major, her family, etc., and all I get back are short answers and no follow-up. I'm frustrated and she's unhappy, and I guess we both look miserable when the waitress tells us that we need to perk up and be happy. She then asks us how long we've been dating. Her face falls when I tell her this is the first date. She goes, "Oh," and walks away and doesn't really talk to us again. After dinner, we were supposed to go to a friend's house who was having a party, but I looked at her in the car and said, "Look, obviously neither of us had a good time. Instead of going to the party, why don't I take you back to your dorm?" She said yeah, and that was it. I went back to my roommate furious and asked him why he thought she had a crush on me. He said he thought she would once she got to know me. Yeah, well, she didn't. Why did she even go on the date? I have no idea. Motives of my roommate? I had a pretty bad breakup a few years before, and I believe he was trying to help me out. When I came home and confronted him about it, he said what I posted above, making me realize he hadn't even talked to her. This, unfortunately, did happen. I can laugh at it now, but I was furious back then. This happened around 1991 or 1992. The waitress really did that to her, but it was good for me to hear that, yes, this is a horrible date and it's obvious to other people too. Time to stop your losses and go home. Story 4. She kept talking about how she needed more commitment from me. Relationship had turned long distance. I was paying for the travel and doing the majority of the traveling. I was the one that had moved away. Sustained it for about a year, but I just realized that she wasn't into me enough to take what she perceived as a risk in moving 5-hour drive away from her family. Never spoke about her needing to show commitment to me. I think what finally happened was when she got a raise similar to what I was making, and it brought up starting to contribute to the travel costs, and she laughed like it was a joke. I clarified it was serious, and she brushed it off. Nope, I'm out. Stuck around longer than I should have. It was her first serious relationship, which, in retrospect, I think was a big factor in some of the immaturity. Guess she thought Risk was a board game, not a life choice involving a 5-hour drive. Story 5. Oh, snap. So last fall, I went to class and ran into this really cute girl, and I thought, hey, I'm going to try to talk to her more. And over the next 2 weeks, I found 0 openings until we were told to get into groups for a project. Small class, but I wasn't in a group, so I asked her if it would be cool if I joined her group, because they seemed more serious than my other group. Bunch of losers. She said yes. So it was me, her best friend, and another girl I talked to for a bit. We agreed to meet up on Friday at the library. We talked a bit more before then and became friends. She's really touchy, so she'd grab my arm, lean on me, etc. I thought she was into me. I showed up early and she was there alone, so we began to talk, and she's so much like me. Has a weird sense of humor, very smart and super friendly. She even liked Dragon Ball. That's the dream. Also, her favorite Spider-Man movies were the originals and not the Holland ones. Then the other 2 girls arrive and I see her phone, and her lock screen is of her best friend. The other girl comments, "Aw, your best friend's your lock screen?" And she says, "Nope, my girlfriend's my lock screen." So that really made me realize she totally wasn't interested in me at all. Funny thing is, we all are still really good friends. We've tried to take classes together and she's helped me out when I had trouble. I accidentally ruined her surprise birthday party. We hung out while we could. She'd buy us lunch, invite us to her place, and we really have a good time together. Those three girls are the best friends I've made in university. It's kind of sad, but before I went like 6 months without anyone in college saying my name or even talking to me. They weren't mean. They were just not my friends. But I met these girls and I have a friend network. I have a constant study group and she's even helping me lose weight because I couldn't do it on my own. She wasn't into me, but I honestly couldn't care less. I'm way happier now than I was before I met her. Story 6. A close friend of several years, who I had a bit of a crush on, had been single for a while, as had I. One day she called me on the phone out of the blue and said, "I'm feeling hot. Want to drive up and meet up?" Why, yes, now that you mention it. Yes, I do. But she lived a 5-hour drive away, and I had to work. So I worked, then hopped into the car the next morning, drove up for a visit. We hugged, went straight to her bed, but I was getting less than a sense of full enthusiasm. Still, she seemed game. Then as we just began to start, she started crying. Now, here's a little hint to all you guys out there. If she starts to cry, she's not happy. So naturally, I put the brakes on and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's not into it. Yes, she's lonely, desperately lonely. But I'm a friend, not a potential lover. She likes me, but she's not into me that way. But here's the thing. She's still game to go through with it, because I drove 5 hours after all. No chance. She's not into it, then I'm not into it. We hugged, went out for dinner, and had a great time. I slept on her couch for the next few days of the visit. Curiously, on that same visit, she met up with a friend of hers, who I dated happily for 6 months until the 5-hour commute wore it down. I mean, she started crying. Guys, when she's crying, it's time to call it. Story 7. Oh man, so many points. Didn't attend my graduation, even though mine and hers was like 2 hours difference. I attended hers and her sister's graduation and got them flowers. I waited for her for 4 hours just so that I could hand a bouquet of flowers to her since before her sister's graduation. She told me she has never received flowers before, so I got it for her. She told me that night that it was an unforgettable memory. I posted an Insta story saying that it's my birthday and she didn't even bother to wish me. I attended her birthday party and wished her a happy birthday every year since I've known her. She sets up a date, I got all excited, and on the day itself, I reminded her in the morning saying I'm looking forward to the date. She replied with, "Oh no, it's today? I totally forgot about it." Not gonna lie, it totally broke my heart. Kept on calling me baby and just generally stringing me along. Only time she would initiate a text is if she needs help. I was in love with her for the past 4 years. Finally stopped all communications and face-to-face meetings. Never felt better in years. Sorry for the long rant. Story 8. So I went out on a date with this girl and she drove. The dinner did not go well as I was quite a bit older than her, and I kept going on and on about the Vietnam War, so she said we should leave as soon as she was done eating. We drove for a few minutes and she told me that her trunk was open and she pulled over and asked me to go out and close it. When I got out of the car, I realized that the trunk is not open and then she drives away. This was before cell phones, so I had to walk for about an hour to get to the closest place, which was a gas station. I walked to the payphone. The guy was filling up his tank while smoking a cigarette. He must have fell in because the next thing I knew, there was a huge flash and I was flying through the air. I was completely dazed. There was a tremendous ringing in my ears and my body was shaking. At first, I was hurt so badly I thought I was passing away, but it was quickly stopped by all the bandages that my buddy George placed on me. Finally, our cap team called in a helicopter and drove him out from our village. What a plot twist. Jeez. Story 9. This happened 3 years ago, but still stings. Sorry for the cringe. Met this stunning girl through common friends. Ex-ballerina, perfect body, beautiful face. We were at a barbecue. We started talking and she kind of looked interested. All green flags. At the time, I was just out of my previous relationship and I was working out a lot. I was in very good shape. At the end of the night, with me being a bit hammered, I forgot to ask her number. I realized she looked kind of angry when we said goodbye and I don't ask to see her again. But it is what it is. One of the common friends close to her asked me about her in the meanwhile, and I'd clearly say I was into her and I couldn't wait to meet her again next time. Because of several coincidences, we didn't manage to meet again for a few months. In the meanwhile, stressed by heavy work and my studies, I was graduating while working a full-time job. I had stopped working out and put on some kilos. Next time we meet is at a birthday party of another of our common friends. She arrives late because of work issues. I greet her and she acts like we've never met before. She even introduces herself like it's the first time I see her. Flags start turning red at this point. A few minutes later, music starts and people start dancing. I was in a corner drinking wine and I saw her close friend talking to her and pointing at me. I don't understand what they say, because of music and also because they're both Russians, but I clearly hear my name. Her face turns horrified. I finish my drink, find an excuse, and leave. Story 10. Not a guy, but I got invited out by a coworker when I first started a new job. I thought we were going to meet up with a group of coworkers, including my future fiancé, to go watch a movie. I agreed because I thought that the guy I had a crush on, the future fiancé, was going to be there. But the guy who told me about it, I'm just going to make some points, looked like a cross between Dwight and Milton. He was an hour late picking me up, told me the movie was at a later time so he could take me to Barnes & Noble 30 minutes away. Decided to drive 30 minutes back to the original town we were in to get food. Made me pay for the 3 drinks he drank during the dinner when I was 20. Asked if I was this quiet in the first date. He told me there was no group of coworkers waiting for us and wasn't even planning on going to the movie. Cue me running to the bathroom and texting my friend to come get me. But he needed time, so I decided to stall. Went back to the table, where he starts going off about how the country's going bad and how he and his buddies have a plan when everything hits the fan. Well, this will give me a chance to stall and hopefully have a story on the off chance I don't get ended. The plan was to go to their bunker in Idaho for the potatoes and lax weapon laws. But Idaho was just a stopping point. The real plan was to get to either Russia or Australia, because that's where the most white people are. My friend had finally texted me saying he was waiting at a cafe down the road. I made an excuse that my friend needed me because she was freaking out about her wedding. I was the maid of honor, that she needed to meet me at the cafe. So I noped out of there real quick. Ended up having to stress Wiz a panic away when I got to the cafe and then proceeded to tell my homie about that date and then going to go see the movie with him and his roommate, where I then told him the story of my night. When we got out of the theater, I ended up seeing a voicemail from my date. It was a bunch of apologies and him thinking I had a nice time. Story 11. This didn't happen to me but to my buddy, and it was absolutely soul-crushing to watch. That's a long story. Dave and Kat worked with me at a restaurant. We called Kat Crazy Cat because while she appeared normal, a few minutes of conversation easily revealed the roiling pit of crazy just under the surface. Dave was a classic quiet guy. He was a tall guy, but very passive and easy to just sort of forget. He was hired as a server, but didn't have the pep to interact with guests, so they made him a food prep or runner. I really liked him. He listened to obscure music, was chill AF, had terrible dance moves, etc. Super fun dude to just hang with. Kat started pursuing Dave. Nobody knew why, because usually she's all about a man in a uniform or a man in a suit, or really any other guy who literally wore his social status. We all supported it though, because she was pretty hot and he had literally zero experience with women, so why not? They messed around for a couple of weeks, but he was too afraid to push it further. Then my best buddy, Jake, visited from his first year in the military. Some friends and I went to his mom's place to chill and were having a great time drinking and chatting. Dave was going to show up later. Well, fast forward 3 hours and we're all on the trampoline when literally out of nowhere, Jake and Kat are kissing. That also happened to be the exact moment Dave showed up. Kat didn't even acknowledge the poor dude. Just brutal, man. She was the worst. Dave never hung out with us again. Probably blamed me a little. Still feel bad about it. Story 12. We lived together in Boulder Creek as a couple. I was working hard hours every night for the railroad down in Watsonville, 29 miles away. My car wouldn't start one night after a long shift, and I called her to let her know what was going on. She just showed absolutely no concern. I got the most uncomfortable vibe on the phone, like it actually felt a lot like the title of this thread. This girl definitely doesn't care about me. So I told her, all right, well I guess if I can't get it started, I'll just sleep in it or something. Cold night, no blankets or anything, and she just said, all right, good night. I called my ex-wife of 14 years, who I'm still very good friends with and always have been. She was 136 miles away in Fresno. I didn't want her to help me, I just needed to hear a voice that cared, as I was emotional from the last call. She had so much concern in her voice. Oh no, Jason, what do you need me to do? I said, nothing. I'll be alright. I just needed to say I'm a little bummed out. So she talked to me and I just felt at that moment like nobody's ever going to love me like this woman did. The ex-wife had no interest in getting back together with me. That wasn't what I was calling for, but she was my friend. She cared about me and I just needed to hear that in someone's voice right then. The ex is in a relationship with another guy and has been for years. I'm totally happy for them both. I feel like I'll probably be forever alone, but I'm totally fine with that. I don't want to feel that feeling again. This person doesn't even care about me. If I ever get into another relationship, It won't be until I know the other person actually cares. That Boulder Creek woman was an only child. I'm almost convinced they're a different breed. No offense to the only child people out there. I just feel like there's a less of a teamwork makes the dream work feeling in relationships with them. Huge generalization, probably not true. Just feels that way to me from the few I've dated. It's like they're not used to sharing. Sharing space, time, energy, etc. Story 13. It was both mine and her first real relationship, except she was 4 years older than me, and I just graduated from the college where I was starting as a freshman. I fell madly in love with her, and she was the same, but almost the entire relationship, 3 years, was long distance. We had a short 6-month period where we were within 20 minutes of each other. The rest of the time it was either a 4-hour trip or at some point a 7-hour flight. I was actually the one who asked for more commitment, or at least more equality in managing the distance aspects. I was always the one who would do the 4-hour drive or train while I was in school with no income, while she had a full-time job. It was usually at least once a month, sometimes twice a month. When we lived close to each other, I was the one who would always take the 20-minute train ride to see her and stay overnight 3 times a week. I slowly realized it was becoming detrimental to my social life. Not just the travel, but the Skyping and communication too. Like most of the aspects, the communication was lopsided. I was there for Skype dates and calls, but would sometimes wait hours for her to finish something with her family, which was going to be 5 minutes. A lot of the issues were from the close family relationship. There was one point where I wasn't sure if I'd see her for a year, and she lessened the week we were meant to spend together to a 3-day weekend, so she could go to the movies with her brother, whom she had been living with at home for a year and a half. I told her at one point, there's no way we could ever have a family of our own if you always put your family first. She completely understood but never changed. Her family was just too important to her. Our relationship just kind of petered out after that. I ended it kind of bad on my graduation day. I called her at 4 in the morning and asked her to not come down, which is ironic because her coming to visit was one of the biggest issues. I still feel bad about it because I did truly love her. The best part is a few months after I ended things, she finally moved away from home and started getting on with her life. I don't think it would have happened had we continued dating, though. Well, both of you were just in different paths in life. Anyways, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 14. Met a girl online. First day we're getting food at Olive Garden. She pulled out her phone and blatantly took a picture of me. I asked her what she was doing. She said it's a game her and her friends play, but she wouldn't go into details. So we ordered food and I tried to talk to her, but she was just playing on her phone the whole time and didn't want to talk. Then she finally snapped and said, I'm only here because I was dared and wanted a free meal, so just shut up, okay? I excused myself to the bathroom, went to the front and explained the situation, paid for my meal and tipped, and returned to the table. No word said, and no, I did not pull out my phone to make it less awkward. I shut up for her and thought for a bit about what I would say. Food shows up and she's very confused because mine is packed to go. They even hooked a brother up with fresh breadsticks. I grabbed mine and started walking out. She says, What the hell? I told her, if you want a free meal, you'll have to look elsewhere. And just walked out. I'm not a looker by any means, but I am human. I also am not going to get used on by some dumb woman either. I know she'll lie to her friends about what happened, but she'll always know what happened. Story 15. I kept seeing this girl walking around in my university. We had a course in common, but she dropped after a couple of months. She was exactly my type. Everything about her was perfect, and thanks to the attendance, I knew her name. When I saw her again after Christmas, I decided to text her via Facebook. Exchanged a couple of messages, and her last was on the line of, I'm sorry, but not looking for anyone, and knowing you're into me, frankly, I don't even want you as a friend. I haven't been friend-zoned. Worse. That was the moment I realized she was not into me. Funny story is, I didn't give up. A year later, I slowed walked back into her life, and the year after that, we got together for more than 2 years. She then broke my heart in pieces and walked on them, so I should have really taken her advice at the beginning and moved on. Story 16. Alright, so here's the deets. I had this major hardcore crush on this super genuine and wonderful girl in middle school. Quite coincidentally, we had track and field together, so that's when I got to chat with her the most. I looked into the fan fiction she liked, watched some shows she was into, all that stuff because I figured, what the hell? It wouldn't hurt to see what she's into and possibly share more common interests. I remember she went on a vacation once and brought back these 2 Lego minifigures. Still have them somewhere. That she found because she knew I was into Lego. It was really sweet of her to do. It's also important to note that this was at a time when not only was my mind getting messed up by puberty, but my mental illnesses such as bipolar and slight depression decided to make it a party.
So keeping a high self-esteem was hard and keeping friends was harder. So overall, I thought things were going pretty smoothly and was really happy because for once, it seemed like someone was actually sticking around for me and also stuck around longer than most. Until the one dreaded day at track and field. Some kid, half serious, half jokingly, asked me and the girl, "Are you two in a relationship or something?" This, in hindsight, was a perfectly reasonable question, seeing as me and her hung out so much, but it didn't feel that way at the moment. Then the girl, without skipping a beat, said sternly, yet still shocked, "Good heavens, no." She turned to me and apologized, but still reaffirmed her statement. Now that being said, due to the fact that she apologized so sincerely and we still had a bit in common, I kinda got over it and we were friends until she left to go to another school. But man, that really hurt. Story 17. She invited me to a party. Pre-party, she told me the plan was to hit the party and hang out for however long, then go back to her place. I asked if it was cool for me to crash there, and she was like, "Yeah, but we will have to share a bed." I was like, "Let's go." Well, she drove us to the party, and she said she planned not to get too hammered. We got to the party and she started drinking. Less than an hour in, she was absolutely hammered and stumbled out the front door and rushed in the street in front of the house. My place was closer to the party than hers by like 20 miles, so I offered to take her home and she said nah. Another friend at the party would take her home. I was like, right on. Tried hard not to make her night any worse, but it sure went from a night where I was really excited to spend time with someone I liked to being at a party with a bunch of people I only knew casually. But I was pretty hurt, so I just drank real hard. I got hammered too. The guy hosting the party helped me to bed in his garage or gaming room. He put on Buffy the Vampire Slayer after asking me if I needed ambient noise to sleep. He was a real bro about the whole thing, and it kind of showed me how people who are actually good people treat others, even if they aren't interested in them romantically. Ended up waking up to a very sweet text from a different girl and ended up learning a lot. Hell of a headache the next morning, though. Story 18. Disclosure, I think this woman thought she was into me, but her priorities were obviously off. So the divorced woman had children, as do I. That makes good date nights hard to find. So we end up with a day where I go to her place and she teaches me how to make sweet potato casserole. We start early enough so that I can take her out for dinner or something afterwards. This goes well, we have a good time, and the casserole looks great. You bake it the next day. Then she tells me she's going out dancing. Now, this is something we had already covered in depth, that I don't do country music and she was not inviting me. We both knew I would most likely decline if she did. Anyway, I stopped seeing her after that. If she cannot make the time for a real date, then she definitely wasn't into me. Now, some of you younger folks may be thinking, that sounds okay to me, but when you're in your 40s, a very few nights on your own that sync up with your dating partner, you will definitely make time for them if you really like them and are looking for something serious. Story 19. This is probably going to get buried, but anyway, when I was still a student in the university, I was heavily into this girl. We got along well and we were in the same classes too. We would even meet every day to go to class together. We had the same friends and even came from the same area back at home. So one night I had this whole thing set up. I went to a big rose garden on campus, stole all of them. I had to put them into a garbage bag and it got full. So many were there. Then I organized with a roommate to put them all over her room in bed. Then I had my friend who played guitar play a love song outside her window and me standing next to him singing my heart out. I even got a standing ovation from the rest of the girls in the building who looked out from their windows to see what was going on. Then I confessed my love to her and asked her on a date. Well, she ran out with a big smile towards me and then gave me a hug. We talked for a short while, she said goodnight and went back in. And there I stood with a big, what the hell look on my face. I guess it was never meant to be. Story 20. Had a coworker that I thought was pretty cute, but I rarely saw her since her shifts were wildly different. One of the first times we actually worked at the same time, my coworker told me to ask for her Snapchat by the end of the night, or he would do it himself. He claimed to be friends with the girl, but I learned after that he had never talked to her either. I walk over to her area and start chatting with her, and we actually had a decent conversation. I wanted to seem somewhat mysterious, so I asked for her Snapchat, and she said sure and typed it into my phone. I Snapchatted her later that night and didn't get a response until the next day. This pattern continued for a few days until she just left me on red. 4 weeks went by at work, and we didn't work together at all, so I figured she was just not interested. Well, one night we were closing together, and she walked over to my area on 3 separate occasions for reasons that people in her position would never have to do. We talked each of those times, and it seemed like she actually was interested. That night, she also apologized for leaving me on red for so long. I took all of these as signs and asked for her number, hoping that I could move things to the next level. I got her number and I asked her if she wanted to hang out. She said yes, and I figured that we should probably do something fun. So I brought up the art museum. She told me she was an artist and she hadn't gone in years. She said that sounded super fun, and our conversation continued on to the next day. The night before the date, I asked if she still wanted to go, to make sure she was serious, and no response. I texted her the next afternoon, hours before the date, and once again, no response. All of a sudden, it was the time we were supposed to go, and once again, there was nothing, and I was officially ghosted. This really just taught me that there are no such things as signs, and the only way you can really tell if someone is into you is if they straight up say it. Story 21. Back in my first year of undergrad, I sat next to this girl in my literature class all year. Kind of one of those friends by association because we chose to sit next to each other and did so for the remainder of the year. Eventually, I started to be interested in this girl, so decided to ask her out towards the end of the year. A bit of backstory before everything that happened. She had been having some memory issues which stemmed from these mini seizures she had been having. They essentially caused her to have short-term memory loss every once in a while. Anyway, I asked her out and we went on a date and we both had a great time, at least according to what we said at the end of the date. So I asked if I could take her out again, to which she replied enthusiastically. We set up a time and I was feeling good. The day of the date comes and I ask her if we're still good for that evening. However, this time she responds by saying how she forgot about a lab she had to do for another class that evening. I think it was for an astronomy class, so it had to be at night. I didn't care. Figured her memory issues made it hard to schedule things, so I was totally cool about it and no hard feelings. I just asked if she wanted to reschedule. No response. That week we had the final for our course, and after taking it, we were walking out together and I said something along the lines of, "Well, it's been nice getting to know you. Have a great summer." But instead of saying the same back, she goes, No, I really want to go out with you one more time before you leave." I went to college out of state. This, of course, made me happy, and we set a time for a second date. The day of this date comes, and I text her to make sure we're still good for that evening. No response. I text her one more time like an hour before, and still nothing. At this point, I gave up. Packed my things and went back to my parents' place since I had finished all my finals. A couple months later, I texted her, just checking in on her health stuff. After all, we were still friends. To which she immediately responded, "New phone, who dis?" And upon telling her my name, no response. Years later, I saw her again, except this time, engaged to another guy. She saw me and acted like nothing had happened and enthusiastically greeted me. I just politely said hi and kept walking. To this day, I have no clue what happened. I only assumed she was talking to this other guy at this time and decided to go with him over me, but they didn't start dating until like 6 months after the thing between her and I. Story 22. My sophomore year of high school, I started dating a girl whom I met through a mutual friend. She was sort of my first legit girlfriend. We were both busy all the time with sports, but this one weekend my family went on a trip to a campground that we used to go to every summer, and she came with us. Leading up to this weekend, things were pretty good. Not great, I suppose, but I didn't notice any signs that things were going poorly. Anyway, on the first or second night there, I loaded up the bed of my dad's pickup truck with blankets and pillows and drove us out to the middle of a field so that we could hang out and look at the stars. I was trying to be cute and romantic, but she was being strangely aloof and very quiet. At one point, she pulled out her phone and just messed around on that for most of the time. After a while, I suggested we go back to the camper and call it a night. When we got back, she went right to the room that we gave her and shut me out. So I passed some time before going to bed by scrolling through Twitter, and lo and behold, I come across a tweet from her saying, "You're not cute, #stop," with a timestamp as the exact time we were out in that field. Well, I asked her about this, and she gave me a very unconvincing excuse that she was referring to some unknown friend of hers. So I left it at that and moved on. The next day, we took a boat that my dad got out into the water, and the whole time she sat by herself off to the side and hardly even looked my way. Super uncomfortable, especially with my parents being right there. Then, an hour or two into the ride, the boat broke down, and we had to get towed back to the dock. My mom drove us home later that day. Dad drove separately, and the whole ride she had headphones in and was reading a book, very clearly ignoring me as much as possible. We dropped her off at her house, talked with her mom a bit, and went our own ways. That following Tuesday, she texted me saying we needed to talk, and obviously I knew what was coming next. She broke up with me over text, gave some lame reasoning, and that was that. I was so angry and handled it extremely poorly, but I'll never forget that experience. Story 23. Went on a wonderful day with this woman back in college. We seemed to vibe well. Even met her grandmother when she had to stop over in the middle of the date and she seemed to like me. She gave me a nice long goodbye kiss at the end of the night and invited me to her roommate's house party the next day. I get to the party and literally the whole night she's avoiding me. Her younger brother told me she's not interested, and the whole time I'm wondering why when our date went so well and seemed like we were getting along. Called me the next day and basically said she didn't want to be pressured into intimacy with someone she just wanted to be friends with. Really? I'm sorry, but no, I never pressured or even talked to her about intimacy. We made out once after our date that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to go to the party to better connect with her. Naturally, that might lead to that, but nowhere in this equation did I pressure her nor plan to pressure her because honestly, I just wanted a girlfriend. So if we did end up in her room and she told me she didn't want to sleep with me, sure, I might be a little disappointed, but I would have gone to sleep and left it at that. I just felt so embarrassed because it made me feel like I was some kind of bad person who wasn't worth anyone's affection. Oh, and also, I later found out I was a rebound after she broke up with my brother's friend, who ended it with her because he was secretly not straight. Seriously? She could have just been honest from the start. Would have made things way better. Also, random facts, I ended up sleeping in a different bed with a cop. Nothing saucy, but still, good mashup for sure. Story 24. I got along right away. We talked every day about anything and everything. I hadn't been that happy in years. I'd normally be the one to start the conversation, but sometimes she would if she woke up before me. We'd hang out at the local bar where we met mostly. I would watch her dog sometimes as she worked a double. We didn't do anything more than kiss, and eventually she said she wasn't ready to be more than friends, but would be soon. I told her I liked her, and that I would wait, but to tell me if her feelings changed because I didn't want to get my hopes up. Turns out she was dating her 40-year-old non-stray boss. I didn't find out for 3 months while I was still seeing her, and talking every day and doing things for her I thought would help win her over. They broke up, and while things were going great for me, her boss said she wanted to fix things. Well, I found out they broke up again. We kept talking until I decided to not text first and see if she would start the conversation. A week went by and nothing. I texted her about it, and she said she stopped talking because I wasn't getting the hint she doesn't feel about me the same way. She still wants to be friends, but I want more. I plan on saying I can't be her friend in the coming days. Story 25. Late to the party. Finally, something that I can relate to. I'm on mobile, so I'm going to try to make this short. I met this girl at college who lived in the same hall as me. My roommate and I could tell that she had a crush on me. My roommate and I would hang out together a lot, but whenever we saw her, she would specifically ask for me to come sit next to her. She asked about my day, would ask me to come study with her, etc. I thought she was pretty cute, so I gave it a try. There was just one issue. I'm a cross-gender guy. We had not even gone on one date yet, so I thought I'd just get it out of the way and tell her. After that, she added me to like 10 people in the hall without my consent. Luckily, they were cool with it, but still. I tried asking her out after that still, and she kept ghosting me multiple times. After a few weeks or so of avoiding her, she asked me out. I was going to visit my family that weekend, so I told her no, and she went crazy on me for no reason. A few weeks later, I was riding in a car to Walmart with my friends when she asked to come. The car was tight, and she was sitting right next to me. I literally did not talk to her. And when we got back, she accused me of mistreating her. Thankfully, I had witnesses who called out on her lies and didn't believe her one bit. After that, I blocked her and everything and avoided her as much as possible. I guess being cross-gender made me dodge that.
What did you do to reignite your relationship with your partner, but instead ruined it? She took me to Disney World for my birthday. I was very surprised seeing how we were just college kids who could barely afford anything. Turns out she begged her best friends, who hated me, rich parents, to pay for the trip. They agreed, as long as the friend came with. So there I was on my birthday trip with my girlfriend and her male BFF who hates my guts. I'm a woman, by the way, so this dude was just madly in love with my girlfriend who friend-zoned the hell out of him. But I'm a good sport, and it's Disney. So I took the opportunity to have a great time in spite of getting glared at every 5 seconds. However, the final straw wasn't the guy who paid for the trip but hated me. It was my girlfriend having a full-on toddler temper tantrum because we missed the parade she wanted to see. I'm talking literally screaming and kicking on the ground in a crowded plaza. And then her BFF caving to her tantrum, calling his parents and having them pay for a whole nother day for all 3 of us just so she could see the parade. Yeah, I was done after that. Last I heard, they got married years later after she divorced her first wife. All those red flags that were scattered around Disney World that day. Seriously, that's wild. Story 2. Bought a house. We were separated and she was very back and forth on fixing her marriage, and I had been checked out for about a year when we spent some time together and, I thought, reconnected. Shortly after, we got the chance at some property for really cheap through a friend of hers. And since a lot of her resentment towards me was based on me losing my job, and thus the first house we bought together, we thought it would be a chance to reignite. Especially since it had a mother-in-law apartment so we could have separate spaces and slowly work on rebuilding our marriage. Instead, we fought like crazy.
She ended up going all in the divorce and getting a boyfriend, even though things still aren't official with the state, and now we live in a trailer on the property so that we don't end each other while we sort crap out. It's awful. Story 3. I arranged a dinner with her family. Holy crap, did they do an amazing job ruining the relationship. The first thing her sister said to me was how she didn't like people from the region I was born in, then proceeded to correct herself by saying, "Actually, it's just the men from there are stupid. Women in general are wonderful creatures." Later on, after acknowledging that me and her sister were going through a rough patch, she added how happy she was that she wasn't in a relationship. Her brother chose to never reply to me directly. Instead, he did so by sharing his thoughts with his sister as if I wasn't there. Moreover, he wouldn't do anything about the recently rescued dog he brought with him without asking. He was constantly gnawing at random belongings of mine. Story 4. I had an LDR in my early 20s. We'd been together almost a year, and he would always come to my place when we met up. After almost a year, I decided it was time to go to his place and meet his family. He still lived at home because he was in school. His parents were very nice, but I could tell his mom was a little pushy. Over the next week I was there, I witnessed how much of a child or mama's boy he actually was. His mom left him post-it notes around the entire house, reminding him to do things. Don't forget to wash your dishes, etc. I thought I was just her being pushy, but when I saw a note in the bathroom that said, "Don't forget to clean thoroughly," I cringed at the note. And when I asked him about it, he shrugged and said, "She reminds me of everything I need to do." The next day, his mom decided it was a good time to give me the rundown on how to leave the notes and other instructions so he'll remember to take care of himself. I broke up with him before I stepped foot in the airplane back home. You're 22 years old and your mom is to remind you to bathe yourself? I'm a partner, not his mom. Story 5. This is what my partner did, but I'm sure he wanted it to revive us. He proposed. It ended the relationship within a month. Not because he proposed, but because he did it during an absolute crisis in our relationship. On a ski vacation where he barely said 2 words to me for 4 days until the proposal. He also had no ring and said if I said yes, then we would go shopping for one. I felt so awful. But my gut reaction was so strongly negative that I just felt like I couldn't possibly say yes and that our relationship was definitely over. It would have been so much better to have a really deep, open conversation about what was going on with us. Story 6. We both wrote about 3 things we wanted to change and to bring our relationship back to life. There were things about me that I hadn't done in over a year. In question, she got really defensive and insisted I still do it, then talked about a situation that happened a year prior to prove her point. My main one was asking for one date night a month. And I told her mine I basically had to fight tooth and nail to just get her to consider it. We never had any dates. Rarely ever saw each other, and I was asking for 2 hours of her time once a month. After that conversation, I really had to reflect on whether this is what I wanted or not. I was kind of glad when we broke up a couple of weeks later. Story 7. It didn't ruin it, but my wife had told me about a fantasy she has of walking in on me watching, and then joining in with me. One night I openly had my phone, watching in bed when she came in, like not hiding it, volume up, etc. She got really angry at me and jealous of the women I was attracted to in the videos. No action happened that night, and I'll probably never try that again. I guess I should have let her know I was going to be doing that, but I figured that spontaneity was part of the fantasy. Story 8. I asked him to get therapy for his trauma and long history of mental health issues. I dealt with mine and come a long way, but it got to the point that I felt like I was moving forward and he wasn't. I asked him if he'd be willing to try therapy, since it was impacting our relationship. I gave him a year to work on his mental health. He didn't. You can't force someone to get help. But I felt after 5 years together, I at least owed it to us to ask, instead of just leaving when things got hard. After I broke up with him after over a year of telling him how things were impacting us and me, he broke down. It's truly heartbreaking that he wasn't ready to get help. Based on how the breakup went, I'm not sure he ever will. But I gave it my all. Story 9. First wife and I were really on the rocks. Hadn't had intimacy in months, didn't communicate anymore, just no love left. She rented an Airbnb in a snowy mountain resort with the idea of rekindling things. It was nice, but the Airbnb kept having disasters. Kitchen sink got clogged, the TV didn't work, the fireplace couldn't be used, etc. Seems like minor stuff, but it all just added to the stress of trying to rekindle the relationship. Ended up getting divorced a short time later. Story 10. I had a falling out with a close friend. It was mostly because of this girl he started dating that I genuinely thought he was a terrible human being, and only there to take advantage of his stable income, being quite incapable herself. I figured it was bad enough for him to deserve a conversation, and it didn't go well. We went a few years without speaking to each other, and one day, I saw a post online that suggests he's getting married soon. I notice it's not the terrible human girl, and reach out to him to congratulate him. He's happy I did. We talk like it hasn't been 5 years. I'm excited for him, and we're making plans. He shares pictures of the engagement and whatnot, and I exclaim, "Thank God it's not her. I really thought you'd marry her." Turns out it is her. She just gained weight and changed her hair. It is her. Is the last thing he said, and I was blocked shortly after. Story 11. This was about 30 years ago when I was still in high school. She was an aspiring writer, but was using this real piece of crap word processor from the late 80s. She constantly complained about how cruddy it was, how much she hated it, couldn't even hook it up to the family printer, etc. Well, a couple of years earlier, I had purchased a standalone word processor that, while it was a couple of years old, it was generations better than the oversized calculator she was using. It had been sitting up in the attic since I bought my PC. So I dusted off the box and tossed it in the trunk of my car and took it to school with me the last day before the winter break. She and her friends were pestering me about what I was getting her for Christmas all day, but I didn't spill the beans. When classes let out for the day, I had some stuff to take care of, but gave her my key so she could go get it. What happened next is what was relayed to me by her friends, because I wasn't there for it. Apparently everyone ran out into the parking lot. She opened the trunk, screamed, "God damn it!" and immediately slammed it shut. She then stormed back into the school, tracked me down, and broke up with me on the spot. As it turned out, she'd already known what I was giving her. Apparently, I couldn't trust my best friend at the time to keep his big mouth shut, and she thought I bought it specifically for her, and she didn't like me spending much money on her. She said it made her feel like a street worker. I hadn't, but there was no convincing her otherwise. I'm still crazy about her, but we never got back together. We talked on and off for a few years afterward, but she ghosted me out of nowhere about 20 years ago. We don't have any current mutual friends, so I never found out why. I wasn't about to pursue it further. I look her up from time to time to make sure she's still alive, but other than that, I honor her apparent wishes and stay away from her. Still hurts like hell to think about, though. And for the people telling me to move on, I have. You don't get to choose who you love or why, and by that same token, you don't get to decide you don't love someone anymore. This isn't someone I pine over. This isn't someone I fantasize over. This isn't someone who has affected my life in any way in almost 3 decades. This is simply someone I used to spend time with, that I cared a great deal for and probably always will. So please, stop dishing out the armchair psychiatry. For the record, I had multiple relationships in the 10 years she and I remained close friends, one of which resulted in my first marriage and my first child. Since she ghosted me, I've had 3 other relationships, one of which resulted in my second child, including my current marriage. That relationship started 17 years ago when we just had our 8th wedding anniversary yesterday. Me caring for her even after all this time has in no way impacted anything in my life, nor would her return if she decided to pop back up. At best, she'd be held at arm's length, and I'd probably view her intentions with suspicion. My spouse would also be privy to all of our conversations. They've got my email and phone passwords anyway, and I'd never meet her face to face by myself. Something tells me she didn't live up to her aspirations. Story 12. I got a job at the same office as her. She asked me to apply, and I wanted to be able to see her every day. When we had our blowout fight, she said that she started to resent me because I didn't have to work as hard as her to do well. I started to resent her because she never wanted to hang out anymore. I left the job after 4 months, then talked to her again for 7 months. We hooked up one last time, and that was that. From office romance to office rivalry, and back to office hookup. Story 13. Allowing my then husband and then best friend to convince me to become poly with him, it haunts me to this day that I told my ex, this goes one of 3 ways. I lose you, I lose her, or I lose both of you. But they told me I was paranoid and was excluding the possibility that it would work. They also made the rule that if one of us was uncomfortable or not into it, we'd stop. He agreed. He did not stop. I was also very obviously not poly-minded. I knew them both. She has a lot of broken parts that make her emotionally hoard people. She has like 7 other partners. My ex is emotionally unstable. I would never be able to do 2 relationships, especially when ours was already failing. I knew enough about myself. It was never going to end well. I left him a year after when it was obvious he wasn't ever going to choose me, that they both were essentially gaslighting and mistreating me to get to one another. I'd asked them to end the relationship 10 months earlier. They lied and said it was done. It was not. I found out years later in my ex's face when he let it slip about their anniversary. It's the day he told me he'd broken up with her. Anyway, don't do poly and don't let your husband be with your best friend. Story 14. He wanted to open our marriage. Encouraged by his polyamorous therapist, which was the tip of a crappy iceberg. After much back and forth, I apprehensively agreed, and I was in a spiteful, screw around and find out frame of mind. The marriage came crumbling down when I not only could score my own pursuit, but his as well, meaning it was my fault we failed. The funny part, in hindsight, is I only flirted, whereas he aimed to go further and he framed it as though I cheated. It's given me a vehement hatred for open relationships. There is no question after that experience that I am a staunch monogamist. Story 15. Moved in from Philly to Hawaii and gave him everything we ever dreamed of. We got married, made a home together. We both worked. Dates, romance, celebrating each other, and a baby girl on the way. He was a veteran with undiagnosed PTSD and thought he was on the road to healing. After 2 years of the same VA doctor, he got a new one who prescribed him muscle relaxers. He took the entire bottle and chased it down. Passed away exactly 700 days of marriage and left behind his unborn child. He was my childhood sweetheart. I tried to love his pain away. Didn't work. Story 16. Not me, but I had a pair of friends who got married when they were 19 to 20. 24 years later, they decided to open their marriage and show the wild oats they never got the chance to. This involved them both dating other women, but no other men for her. About a year into it, he meets a woman, falls in love with her, and she ends up moving into their home as their girlfriend. 3 years on from that, they're divorced now. I noticed I said I had a pair of friends. Their marriage was far from the only relationship that got ruined in this crap show. Before I read this thread, I was worried I was putting in too many specifics, but now I've remembered how incredibly common and almost boilerplate this kind of thing is. Opening your relationship doesn't work, kids. Story 17. Maybe this isn't the right answer, but here goes. We were having serious problems in our relationship. I decided I can't change him, but I could change me, so I tried to be the perfect wife. I read several books and did everything they said, even when I thought it was stupid. I didn't get angry about anything. I did everything myself, so I didn't have to ask for anything. I took care of everything. For 3 years. All it did was make things so much worse. It's like he needs me to be angry with him at all times, so he intentionally does dumb crap he absolutely knows I hate, or other malicious things so that I'm angry and he's the poor victim who tries his best and falls short of my unreasonable expectations. He ramped it all up during the perfect wife phase. What could have previously been explained by ignorance or incompetence or selfishness now can only be explained by intentional malice aforethought. Our relationship is ruined. It can never be fixed. Story 18. My girlfriend first attempted to break up with me because she relied on me too much for her happiness. We lived an hour and a half apart. Then she realized she didn't want to and asked for me back a couple of times. I gave her 2 weeks with no contact to find a therapist and to write down the pain points in our relationship, and I did the same. We both thought it was a great idea. The day before the 2 weeks were up, I texted her, "I've missed you and I'm excited to see you." She asked to meet that day and dumped me, saying she needed to work on herself and that I was the best boyfriend she'd ever had. I think the 2 weeks ruined it. While she was going to therapy for the first time, it was a volatile period in her life, and she probably needed me there to talk through it. She said everyone in her family loved me and that her mom would probably choose for me to stay in her life if she could. It caught me totally off guard. I asked her to meet up to talk and get some clarity. She said she couldn't because a family member had passed away and she needed to cope and was sorry. I've thought about it every day for the last 2+ months and wonder if I will ever hear back from her. Story 19. We had broken up in 2018. She and I started messaging each other during 2020 and lived on opposite sides of the country. She decides she wants to book a train ticket to come see me and work on things. We agreed to live separately. 2 weeks into her stay, she decided it's not safe to live where she was renting, so she asked me to stay at my place, and I had a full-on anxiety response in my body, but I allowed her to move in anyway. My therapist thought it was a pretty bad idea, but I didn't believe him. Anyway, things were great for 2 weeks, and we had intimacy like rabbits. Then the old ghosts of her past started showing themselves. A month into her staying with me, I had a meltdown and told her I wanted to go back home and buy her a train ticket. She went into a rage and said no. We proceeded to yell at each other for 2 hours and she broke a bunch of stuff in my house. I still allowed her to stay for another 2 months as we tried to repair things emotionally, before she finally agreed to go back home. I still bought her a train ticket and gave her money to help her pay rent. Hands down the dumbest thing I've ever done to try and save a relationship. Thank God for therapy. because that relationship messed me up. Story 20. Met with him while I was on a holiday leave for the army, even though I said no second chances. He kept inviting me over and I went, and then he'd just keep me there and fall asleep but would get angry when I tried to go back home. Couldn't get a single conversation out of him regarding what was next for us. I realized he didn't care as much as I did and that we were in very different places. It didn't last too much longer after that. We were together for nearly 8 years and I haven't talked to him in 3 weeks now. I feel like I made the right decision, no matter how painful it was. Story 21. Trip to Mexico. I put my phone up and really focused on every moment of the trip. I had a lovely time being present and connecting with my partner. Get home and get accused of hiding something or her because I didn't post anything on social. Ended 3 months later. I didn't post anything because I left my phone in the room to focus on her. I know it was an excuse and there's more to it or she had already planned to leave, but I thought it was hilarious to be blamed for something when that something was being present instead of on screens. Story 22. Not me, but I'm a couples therapist and I can name 3 I see too often. Having kids, opening up or trying out ethical non-monogamy. Cheating. The only problem having kids ever solves is the problem of wanting kids. Similarly, the only problem multiple relationships ever solves is the desire for multiple relationships. Both of those two can and frequently are very fulfilling things, but neither of them really makes the existing relationship better, beyond potentially making the people in the relationship feel like they're living the life they want to live. Cheating, of course, is an entire crap show. I only mention it because often folks justify it to themselves as something that is helping the relationship in some way. Example, partner has low drive, so I'm getting my needs met without bothering them. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 23. I bought us plane tickets to Prague. The plan was for us to have some intimate bonding time after my work in other parts of Czechia concluded. Prague is one of my favorite cities, and it would have been his first time in Europe. Despite the disintegrating state of our marriage, I was excited for it. He wound up rage quitting the trip after blowing up at me for no reason, and saying things that really couldn't be taken aback, after which he kept trying to get me to invite him back on it. I said to ask me after a particularly stressful event concluded, but he ignored this and kept pestering nevertheless while gaslighting me throughout. I didn't rage quit. I volunteered not to go so you could have some time for self-care. Yeah, right. I'm not an idiot, and have this thing called a memory. On my last night in Prague, I called him over FaceTime to divorce him and kick him out. Hung up when he began fake crying and begging me to accept an alternative arrangement, where we lived as platonic roommates, but I continued to provide for him anyway. No thank you. Story 24. Tried a new church. He was advised by his boss that it would be better for a relationship to be closer to God. The sermon was themed Better Together. It got me thinking that I really didn't think him and I were better together. On the drive home, I initiated a conversation about some boundaries and things I wanted to change. Otherwise, it just wasn't going to work anymore. The sermon apparently had the opposite effect on him, and he felt that God was telling him we should stay together, but kept everything exactly the same. We broke up before we even got home, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Story 25. We were together almost 4 years, and she always wanted to move to another city to be closer to her friend, female. In preparation to move out, she quit her job, and I said, you can stay at my place however long you want to make this period easier for her. She got depressed, and her friend blocked her everywhere because she wasn't responding. Yeah, she got stuck between decisions. So I was working, and she was sitting home playing games and smoking for like 7 months. I didn't see much change, but still was trying to save this relationship. Paid rent, bought groceries. She was helping a bit, too. So at the start of April, she just found a job, got a driver's license, and I wanted to go shopping. We got in a silly argument, which made me slip and get hammered after that with friends. Came back home and wanted to smoke, which she refused to give. I then just took it. With so many things I've done for her, I took this refusal personally from her and pushed her away. Got back to my friends, blacked out, and found out next morning she moved out. I was blamed for everything in a relationship, and it felt so much guilt. Tried to get her back and still feel like crap because of that. She was hooking up with another guy through Discord through my PC all this time I was working and was already with him only 10 days after breakup. And even when I realized it, she was pretending they were only friends. I guess if someone wants to move away from you, just let them. They'll find the other way if it didn't work the first time. And you won't feel much love from both sides while trying to save it all. Story 26. Got engaged. I was hoping it would be a big event that could push our dull and dragged on relationship into an exciting and fulfilling territory. Instead, within days, the haunting reality of what being with someone who refuses to make any changes or sacrifice would feel like is permanent. We had been together for 5 years. I left him 2 weeks after our very public engagement. We had to awkwardly live together for like another month. And I had a very stressful job at the time. It was an awful time, and yet I do not regret anything. So grateful to not be in a relationship with someone very bland and unmotivated. However, I do wish I could have figured that out a few years before the dramatic moment. Yes, I paid for my own engagement ring and I still have it. Story 27. I just celebrated my 5th wedding anniversary. Together for 8 years. We struggled with intimacy for a long duration of this relationship, but we were otherwise good. So, among many other things I tried, I suggested maybe therapy. She went for 3 months and decided her drive was back, but she also pushed me away at this time. So while we were emotionally distant, she decided it was me that she didn't want. She said that every time she imagined me, her drive disappeared again. Then reflected on the rest of our relationship and decided it was all bad. Almost a decade of happiness, building a house, a business, and raising a child together was apparently all bad. She asked for a divorce tonight. I'm devastated. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and I'm so scared to not see her every day. I feel like my heart has been ripped out. Been crying all night. She seems completely nonplussed. Not a single tear. She ate a pizza and fell asleep. I can't eat and can't sleep, especially next to her. I'm so hurt and scared and sad. Update, I found out she was already cheating before she gave me the letter that said she wasn't happy, which contained some areas of my life I could and have started to improve, but also outright fabrications. Story 28. Everything. I tried everything with him and for him, to the point where I lost sight of who I was, how I see myself, lost respect for myself, and I lost hope and the urge to keep trying. In the end, it wasn't because of me. It was because he was in love with somebody else, and he always will be. After 5 years, I never got the relationship I wanted from him, but I kept trying. Eventually, I realized it doesn't matter anymore. He'll never love me, because if I don't love myself, there's nothing left to love. We had 1 child at the time, and now we have 2. He still treats me like crap. He still doesn't want to be with me. And we still don't get along. I had a few short months during my pregnancy. I regained hope and was beginning to feel happy. We were starting to be friends. That's something we never had. Friendship. A real, true friendship I always wanted, but we never got it. It was so nice. Then something must have happened because overnight he changed his mind. And I don't mean like just kind of worked into this. I mean it's like we had a great day, he went to bed. The next morning he woke up. He went and left on his bike for a minute. I came back and he was a different person. He looked at me differently. I've seen it in his eyes, looking differently. He talked to me differently. I try to talk to him about it. He just tells me, you just want to talk. It hasn't come back since. My daughter is 9 months old and we still don't sleep together. We don't even share a room. We barely parent together. He doesn't like me. He's miserable because he wants somewhere else and he lets me see this damn near every day. He tells me he loves me once in a while. He's leaving, hanging up the phone. I feel like it's more repetitive or out of habit. It's the second hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. He won't even let us be friends now. And I think what happened is he got scared because he found that in that friendship we were building, we really did love each other. Maybe I wasn't so bad. So yeah, I'm grateful that I have our kids and a roof over our heads because I can't work yet until she's at least a year old. And I just still depend on daycares and how much it costs. Until I can get back to work, can you change your living situation again, like I did before? So before you put all that energy and time in, make sure it's something you both want. Not just one of you. One person can't do it all. Story 29. I decided to not cancel a trip to go see him overseas, went on the trip, and was treated like crap. Constantly lonely, never good enough, had to pry him off a game to do much as look at him for longer than 5 minutes. Intimately pushed way too far, and then he ran off to another woman because I wasn't satisfying him. With me, in the same house. Then ignored me for the remainder of the night. Bar 1 minute long conversation he refused to properly have. Physically fought with me when I made plans to run in the middle of the night, calling me crazy and unreasonable for wanting to leave. They completely fired the thing we had going on in the foot. I haven't spoken to that schmuck in months, and I couldn't be happier. Story 30. About a decade ago, after my husband cheated on me, he agreed to go to couples counseling to try and save our marriage. However, we couldn't afford anything but the counseling he could get through the VA. He was a veteran in the lightest possible sense. He was Air Force. He never went anywhere near a combat zone. He mostly just got hammered in Germany. But he pushes this whole broken PTSD veteran narrative. I would love now to know what qualifications this counselor had, as he basically just showed up and implied that my ex-husband wasn't responsible for his actions because it was sad and that it was my fault for not being a good enough wife. Literally. It was wild. Seeing that my husband had zero interest in taking accountability for his actions or putting in even one iota of effort, not to mention sitting there and allowing a subpar professional to tag team and gaslighting me, was one of the things that really led to me ending things. I could improve in the ways in which I was a flawed partner, but I realized that he was terminally selfish. There was no fixing that if he didn't want to. And why would he? All of this fit way better with his dumb self-mythologizing anti-hero broken man narrative he desperately clung to. And he was still young and handsome, so there would never be a shortage of women who would believe his lies for a while. Story 31. Like every long relationship, 19 years of marriage, we had our ups and our downs. We always tried our best to make it work because we were very happy. Or at least I was most of the time, and we have raised 4 kids. I ruined our relationship by supporting my wife in every way I could think of through her cancer diagnosis and treatments. I never missed an appointment. I made sure we were making lasting memories of the kids. I researched treatments, and I always made sure that all of her questions were answered by each doctor we saw. I never felt closer to her. Apparently, my mistake was researching prepaid funeral packages. I found out 7 months into her treatments that she had started having an affair after she was diagnosed. After a prolonged period of gaslighting, she said she was tired of the talk about passing away and she wanted to do what she wanted to do. I'll never be the same again. Story 32. We worked together at a resort one summer and started dating. She went back home and so did I, 900 miles apart. We visited over fall and winter breaks. After 2 years of just doing long distance, I decided to move to her town and give it a real shot. She had a year left of college and I had just graduated. Got a job teaching at a crappy school. Moved into an apartment 900 miles from everyone I knew besides people I knew through her. We made it 3 months before she broke up with me. You are much more interesting on the phone. I finished my contract, packed my bags, and moved 1,400 miles away to the first school that would hire me. Story 33. Dated my ex because she called me. I was willing to give it one last try, even though I was done really bad by her earlier. After dating for 3 weeks, I felt the vibe was off. Decided to call her and I got to know that her parents never wanted me in their house again because of stuff she said after we broke up to her parents. What she also said was over-exaggerated and lies, to easier get over me at the time. Realized I can't deal with a person who lies about me. Also got to know that she didn't feel well lately, and that's why she called me in the first place, to get comfort and love, and when she finally felt happy, it was time for me to go. After that, I can't put trust in any girl ever, and will not be able to commit to a girl in a while. Story 34. These are pretty ugly, so I'll pitch in a funny one. We'd been married for 3 years. I proposed we live out this teenage fantasy of sleeping in a seedy motel, sneaking in a wine bottle with some snacks, having intimacy in the hot tub, and even more on the bed with a ceiling mirror. We wanted to pretend we were young. The hot tub was defective. The bed was broken. We forgot to bring a corkscrew. And when we finished having intimacy, the place was way too noisy and uncomfortable to sleep in. He woke me up at around 3 a.m. and begged for us to go home. We had a nice sleep in our own bed and ordered a massive brunch later. We're still together and happy. Story 35. Oh man, this one haunts me. About 5-ish years ago, things were very unspicy between my late wife and I after our kid was born. It's complicated, and I would rather not go deep into the why, but a part of it is that she struggled with body image issues. Our relationship in basically every other way was, really. I talked about it for months at this point, trying to figure out something that would help us ease back into intimacy after a few years of nothing. Start slow, communicate, be careful and calm. Take it really easy and relearn how to do things. So we're going to have a pretty big and stressful life change. So I offer the idea that we start that thing. Just have a nice night with some advanced cuddling. Instead, my wife is in this weird, take me like it's a romance novel, and also, I'm extremely nervous that we're going to mess this up somehow kind of mood. I'm hesitant, but also it's been a few years at this point, and I'm very much in love with this woman. I keep wanting to be slow, but she keeps wanting everything turned up. Okay, fine, as long as she's happy, that's what matters. I had offered to take it slow for her benefit, but she's urging me to really just go to town. She didn't want to go to the carnival at the county fair. She wanted the whole three-ring circus with trapeze artists and elephants and lion tamers and clowns, and a ringleader with a handlebar mustache and a red tailcoat. For a less metaphorical explanation, if she wanted me to go further than I did, I'd be digging in the back of the closet to see if we still had ropes. It was okay, I guess. Afterwards, we're doing the nice, pleasant talking and cuddling thing, and I'm telling her what I like about her body and why I find her beautiful. She gets super awkward and sort of slides out of bed, grabs her clothes and escapes to the bathroom while shuffling backwards and covering herself. I'm left there incredibly confused and a little insulted. She comes back a minute later, dressed in pajamas, slides into bed awkwardly and clicks the lights off. I'm still confused and tried to ask what happened, but she didn't want to talk about it. It never really came up after that. We'd talk about the idea of trying again, but the conversation would always end up dead in the water awkwardly. I loved the hell out of her. But legit. Literal years and years of no physical intimacy, punctuated by a single mediocre lovemaking session, and an otherwise perfect relationship is profoundly depressing. Story 36. My ex-wife asked me if I would try to dress in clothes a little more revealing, and she showed me what she wanted. It was basically men's trunks, like the ones that come up about an inch below tighter muscle shirts. Think Archer trying to seduce a man. She seemed adamant that would be something she'd like, so screw it, I went along with it. We even spent 20 minutes shopping together online. A few weeks later, I'm wearing what she wants around the house. We start getting into the groove in the bedroom. My shirt comes off. My trunks come off. And she starts laughing that I look funny. It turns out she didn't want me to dress like that. She thought it would humiliate me. I wasn't humiliated because it's clothes and it's what you wanted. But her attitude is why she's now my ex-wife. Story 37. My fiancé wanted to go back to school because his manual labor job was too much for him to handle. I wanted to support him in his endeavors, so we came to an agreement that he would help around the yard and clean, cook, manage the house things, like go in line to pay bills, etc. While I worked and supplied the funds for our bills, as well as his child support. After 2 weeks, school was too hard, so we resorted to smoking and playing video games by himself. I also game, so it was hurtful he didn't even want to include me. Things deteriorated quickly as I had to take on all the household duties while working 50-plus hours a week to watch my partner completely withdraw. I raised the issue multiple times, looked for alternatives, offered to pay for therapy, offered to pay for him to try school again, but ultimately it didn't work out. I couldn't get back to how things were. I felt completely overwhelmed and disrespected, so we ended the relationship. It was really sad. It's been almost 2 years, but I still think if we never made that change, we would still be together. Story 38. My ex convinced me to move to a remote mountain town with him for his dream job, which turned out to be a nightmare that he quit within 7 months. After I just graduated with a BA and was looking to start grad school immediately following, I decided I should compromise, i.e. completely sacrifice, for him and went, thinking I could put off grad school for the time being. Spent 2 years there. Got really depressed being so far from family, working a job that paid crappy wages, and had nothing to do with my degree because tourism was the only industry there. And then, of course, he decides to leave me several months before our wedding because I became depressed and turned into a different person than the one he fell in love with. I still have the wedding dress that a dear family friend helped me buy before she passed away. Needless to say, I moved back, went back to school for something different, but still adjacent to what I studied. Met and fell in love with someone far more understanding and kind, and got a job that I love in my field. The healing process wasn't as easy or linear as I made it sound, and it took a long time to feel okay again. But I feel so lucky to be where I am now. 6 years ago, I was not in a good place. Story 39. He was weirdly obsessed with this girl he called his cousin. They were just longtime family friends. She was pregnant and would call him 24/7, and he would drop me and go to her for everything she needed. I told him he was acting like it was his kid. He didn't need to be supporting her financially and emotionally like he was. He continued for months. I got tired of it and told him I needed a break. Months later, I met my now husband casually dating. Max and I are still on good terms. He made a grand gesture to propose and promised me the world. I broke it off with my now husband and said yes. 3 days went by and I felt like I'd lost the love of my life. I apologized and broke it off, and it's been 22 years since I've been with my husband, married for 20 years. 3 kids and a dog. Don't propose to someone as a last-ditch effort to save a splitting relationship. In the end, I think he knew it wasn't really going to work out. I did speak to him years later, and he said he saw me slipping away and it was all he could think of. He's married with kids now. I'm happy for him, but I wasn't his person and he wasn't mine at the end of it. Story 40. My girlfriend and I had been having some issues at the time. Just felt like something she was not happy with, but wouldn't want to talk about it, so we had preferred to open up. We were going to have lunch one weekend and she had to cancel, saying she caught a cold. I was a little dejected, but I figured since she can't go out, I'll bring her some food. Went and got her favorite Chinese food and an order of soup. I finished my order, looked over into the dining area and saw her. She's not alone and sitting there with one of the guys from her work that I know for a fact is a thing for her. I walked over and just smiled. Thought you were sick. Yeah, we were pretty much over at that point and I wasn't really all that torn up about it. Story 41. Talking about her past is off limits to her, ex, because she's changed and a totally different person now in her words. We had already hooked up one time and somewhere along the way after she said, I think this entire conversation says we'd make better friends than lovers. I'd already invited her to my birthday party, to which she later declined to go because she wanted overtime money instead. Now I know some people need to survive, but she could have just said she had to work. I took the hint. I didn't even get a happy birthday from her. I don't think we'd make good friends because I'll always have that feeling of estrangement and longing, and I'm not used to our intermittent conversations where we don't talk for days at a time. I can't stand it, so I'm just dropping out. I don't think I'm ghosting her because it's not like I'm not replying to her messages. I responded to her last almost 2 weeks ago. I'm just no longer pursuing her anymore or going out of my way to message her nothings here and there.
What's the stupidest fight you've ever had with a significant other? Years and years ago, I was dating a young woman who seemed predisposed towards losing her temper about the strangest things. I could say something as innocuous as, I'll see you tomorrow, and it would spawn an argument about, well, to be honest, I'm not sure. Perhaps the most ridiculous fight that we had, though, was ostensibly about aliens. I don't recall exactly how the conversation started, but I know the young woman had asserted her belief that extraterrestrial life simply did not exist. That seems almost impossible, I replied. Think about how enormous the universe is. So what? She answered. That doesn't mean there are more people out there. How are you defining people? I asked. I mean, there probably aren't more humans out there, but I'd say it's almost a given that sentient aliens exist. This seemed to irritate the young woman. People means people. Okay, I said, trying to redirect the discussion. But how do those people look? It's impossible that they're, say, silicone-based creatures that look like crystals or something. That's stupid. I shook my head. No, think about it. If they had a means of generating electricity, their internal makeups could act like a kind of naturally occurring circuitry. If it was complex enough, and if those crystals were capable of thinking, if they were intelligent, wouldn't they be people? The conversation took a significant downhill turn at that point, as my then-girlfriend snarled at me in anger. I honestly can't believe you, she growled. What did I do? Why are you upset? You're sitting here telling me that my jewelry is smarter than me? I never said, and you wonder why I'm mad. I never said, oh, go on. Tell me about how Diamond is smarter than me. Now a wiser man would have used that opportunity to say something disarming and flattering like, you're much smarter than a diamond, and much more beautiful too. A wiser man might have simply held his tongue. A wiser man, I think, would probably have recognized the fight for what it was. A young woman feeling intellectually inadequate and offered some variety of reassurance and comfort. A remarkably stupid man would have replied by saying, no, diamonds are carbon-based. I said silicone-based. The fight lasted quite some time after that. I can tell she believed in cube time. Story 2. I can't remember what the initial fight was, though my girlfriend and I had plans to go to breakfast the following morning. She was being a huge witch to me, more than normal, like saying I need to stop hanging out with my friends, etc. And I was just fed up with it. So I told her I wasn't taking her to breakfast the next morning. This woman loved breakfast. So we stopped talking till morning. She calls me in the morning, all happy and giddy, asking where we're going to breakfast. I tell her I'm not taking her to breakfast. She starts screaming, etc. I hang up and go on with my day. Later, my buddy comes over, and just as he's walking, I see her pull up with her mom driving the car to drop her off. She sees my buddy walking in the door, whom she hates, and just starts screaming at me and charging me as her mom drives off. So I'm sitting at my door trying to get my buddy to get inside so I can lock the door, and my dog runs out of my house and starts running away across the street. I proceed to chase my dog while my girlfriend catches up to me and chases me whilst screaming at me as I try to catch my dog. I eventually caught my dog, and I got hurt by my girlfriend. Asked her to leave. Bet the dog thought it was all some hilarious new game. Story 3. This was probably over a year after we broke up, but we're still living together. He came into my room after watching Modern Marvels and said, "Panda, what's wrong with me?" I jokingly asked, "Do you want the short list or the long?" But that wasn't the fight. So he said that he had watched Modern Marvels on Chrome and a trucker had spent $10,000 over 10 years on chroming various parts of his big rig. My ex could not understand how this guy could have spent that much money on Chrome because that is a ridiculous thing to spend that much money on. I said something to the effect of, "Well, I'm sure you spend tons of money on electronics that this guy would look at and go, that's a stupid amount of money to spend on gaming and computer stuff. It's just how he chooses to spend his money because it makes him happy." He disagreed and believed that $10,000 worth of Chrome was crazy, but $10,000 worth of computer parts was not. But that wasn't the fight either. That was just a friendly debate. Looking back, I'm still not sure how this happened, but somehow this devolved into him calling my dad a selfish baby boomer, and when I pointed out that the boomers are from like 1945 to 1965, well, my dad was born in 1938, so he could literally not be a baby boomer, my ex lost it, and the friendly debate turned into a screaming match. Story 4. This occurred when I first started seeing my significant other, and we weren't official yet. Typical college budding relationship. I was a freshman, he was a senior. I had way too much to drink when we were out one night and ended up blacking out. His roommate and I were bickering at the bar, and my significant other decided it was time to bring us home. I came out of the blackout, retching all over his bed. I quickly ran to the bathroom, dripping liquids on the floor on the way there. Ew, I know. #college. I helped him strip the sheets and throw them in the wash. I'm embarrassed to say he had to help me shower off, not in a romantic way because I was still very, very hammered. I then got incredibly mad at him because he refused to get angry with me for messing up all over his bed and being a general mess. I remember crying and demanding that he just get mad at me because I knew he was mad in his head. He kept insisting that he wasn't mad at all and needed to wash his sheets anyway. This went on for about 20 minutes back and forth until I eventually fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, very hungover and mortified, to find he still wasn't mad. I realized I had a keeper. That's nice of him. He's a keeper all right, and I hope she doesn't do any more of that to test him. Story 5. This girl I dated senior high of high school and I happened to be in the same health class. We decided it would be fun to partner together for the animatronic baby project. She went to the mall with Hunter, fake baby's name, on Saturday and was going out that night. I told her I was getting dinner with some friends so she can stop by and give me the baby on the way back from the mall before she heads out. Well, she's taking a long time to get home from the mall and friends are waiting for me to get dinner with them. I'm waiting on this baby being dropped off. I finally told her to just meet me at the restaurant and drop the baby off there. Well, she did, but she flips out when she gets there, saying it's irresponsible for me to leave the house when she needs to drop this baby off. The restaurant was maybe 15 minutes out of her way. I started telling her she was supposed to drop the baby off at X time. She yells at me, saying she needed to pull over to feed the baby and it took some time. We get into an all-out screaming match in the entrance of this restaurant, over a robot baby. Finally, she left and I went back to my table with a baby. People thought we were just a crazy high school couple who got pregnant too early and some woman actually offered to watch my baby while I ate. She laughed when I said it was a robot baby for health class. We apologized on Sunday, but man, did we get pissed at each other over a fake baby. Guess the project worked. Story 6. I'm super late to the show, but I'll post anyway. I was flying home from a week in New York City on business. I live in Michigan, and I was sick for the entire trip. My flight was delayed, and when I landed at DTW, it was raining harder than it had rained in years. The car dropped me off at the office where my car was parked, and I called my boyfriend who was waiting for me to come home. He was hanging out with friends at a nearby downtown bar and wanted me to pick him up. Of course, I was going to go get him. I wanted 2 things that night: my love and sleep. The rain was falling in sheets. It was like driving through Niagara. For miles. I still felt pretty sick and was cranky from the airports and security and the stress of the work when I called my boyfriend and asked where he was. He told me to pick him up at the top level of the parking garage in town. I drove up to meet him and there he was, standing soaked in the rain. Arms outstretched, head tilted. He danced in the rain waiting for me. Sitting in the car, I asked him to just get in so we could get home. He shook his head and told me to come dance with him. I refused. I was not having it. I was sick, tired, stressed, and wanted to go home. He insisted, and so did I. I eventually won, but the whole ride home was spent in silence. We showered together in silence, went to bed in silence, and I felt horrible. We're no longer together. And every day that I remember that, I wish that I would have gone out of the car. I've always been a fan of cheesy romantic stuff like that, and the ironic part is that he wasn't. But that night he was, and I wasn't having it. I was a fool. If you're somehow reading this, I should have danced with you. Given a second chance, I would. Story 7. That would be the fight we call freaking pancakes. Here's how it went down. Friday night, my wife informs me that tomorrow we're making these blueberry lemon pancakes. Sounds really good. Okay, I'm game. Did not look at the recipe. We went out that night, and the next morning I'm tired, hungover, and hungry. But we have to make these pancakes. I can whip up pancake batter that is really good in 4 minutes. Don't need the mixer, just a bowl and a spoon and a couple of measuring cups. But this recipe, holy moly. Had to drag the KitchenAid blender out and to get another bowl for the batter. Had to grate lemons, had to separate eggs and beat the egg whites separately. I'm trying to just read one step at a time because each one is like a paragraph of stuff I have to do. Vanilla beans? Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, my wife is sitting there drinking coffee saying, "How much longer?" I don't know how much longer. At this point, I'm finally folding in the beaten egg whites into the rest of the batter. This is the last step, I think. I'd ask her to at least get the flat griddle heated up and some butter melted on it. She's like, "Why don't I just cook these? Jeez." And I snap. "Okay, you can cook the freaking pancakes." And I casually toss a small ladle I'm holding into the batter. But somehow, some way, it lands so perfectly that about half the bowl of batter just literally sprays our kitchen. I'm talking about atomized pancake batter in the cabinets, microwave, counters, floor, oven, cooktop, sink, me, her, the TV, and the cat. We both look at each other and just lose it. I'm laughing, she's laughing, and I cooked us what was left, and then we both cleaned up. We made them one other time when we were not hungover, and they were really good. Story 8. This was 4 years ago while I was living in Las Vegas, and it was Christmas time. My boyfriend and I both couldn't afford to fly home to be with our families during Christmas, so we spent it together in an ugly Air Force dorm room. Come Christmas Day, and I decide the only food I acquire in this splendid day is a pizza Lunchable. But then boyfriend and I went out and started our hunt for a pizza Lunchable. After going to several gas stations and Walmarts, our searches are useless. I eventually settle for a gas station hot dog while my boyfriend gets a Jack in the Box. I ask him to save the ketchup for when we go home so I can use it on my hot dog. I was driving at this time. While filling up my car with gas, I didn't see my boyfriend throwing away his Jack in the Box bag. When we get back to his dorm room, I look at him expectantly, and he has this "oh no" look on his face and tells me he forgot and threw away the ketchup. I look at him, I look at the hot dog, and then throw the hot dog at him and slump against the floor and start crying. I then begin yelling at him. "You expect me to eat this? This is disgusting. Who eats hot dogs without ketchup?" It was a mixture of being homesick during the holidays and a mixture of my boyfriend failing. I was sobbing on the floor for probably a solid hour, going on and on about how nothing was going right and how I would starve. Story 9. My ex-girlfriend developed BPD, which led to a breakup. Most arguments were stupid, or like crazy and illogical. A list of my top 3 favorites are: before she had BPD, I constantly would explain that I wish she spent more time with me when we were home together, instead of sitting on her computer. After our breakup, when she asked me one of the reasons, I reiterate my point. Her response was, "I should have been clearer in my explanation." Bruh, I've never once worded it differently, and now you get it. After being forcibly admitted for threatening to hurt herself, losing her job, and running back home to her parents, I visited twice before bringing her home. The first time was just for a day on the weekend, as I had job responsibilities. Most of the time I was there, she hid in her room and slept. I was yelled at later for not being there for her or spending time with her. See favorite argument number 1 for why this is crazy. My all-time favorite was after she was admitted. I was to blame for her being admitted, as I let it happen. Also, my mom had a hand in it. She wasn't even there when it happened and actually helped me get her out early instead of having to spend a week in there. I'm sure it had nothing to do with her not sleeping for a week, losing her mind, threatening to jump in the lake and end herself, or saying she wanted to hurt me and herself when the ER doctor asked. Bonus, she convinced me to bring her home from her parents by saying she would see a therapist, but she became unwilling to go to the one her parents were taking her to. A week later, I brought it up. She said only if I and her other friend agreed it was a good idea. 2 weeks later, she outright refused and said she'd consider a couples therapist. A month later, she said hell no and that we didn't need it, even though she no longer trusted me because I let her get admitted. I was pretty much out at that point. Story 10. So bummed I'm late to this party. So I'm in my college dorm room, taking a nap between classes, and suddenly I hear the phone ring in the other room. I sit bolt upright in bed, only to bang it on the bunk bed above me. I stumbled out of bed and get tangled in my sheets, falling flat down. At this point, I'm crawling on all fours trying to get to the next room and answer the phone when the answering machine picks up. It's my girlfriend. Woot! I scramble faster, throw myself out of my sheets reaching for the phone, and pick the receiver up, panting from the exertion. She doesn't even let me get a word out. Aha! You're cheating! I knew you'd cheat on me, and now I caught you. Just listen to your breathing. You're disgusting. Clang of the phone receiver. I look at the phone in disbelief, look back at the trail of destruction I'd caused to pick up that phone call and pull the phone cord out of the wall and just go back to bed. Story 11. Back in high school, I was able to convince my dad to let me stay home from school one day. My girlfriend had to go to school that day, so I figured I would surprise her and her friends at lunch with a box of Hinterman's cookies. She loved them. Easy brownie points, and her friends would think I was a nice guy. So I went and bought a box, showed up at school, and surprised her. Her friends were excited and were saying how nice I was. My girlfriend immediately flipped out as I had accidentally purchased the milk chocolate chip recipe instead of original recipe. She actually started screaming about how I should know which one to buy and I'd made a huge mistake and she wanted me to leave. I had no idea there were different recipes and just grabbed the first box I saw. This was about 15 years ago. But I remember this as one of the few times I was in a fight with a girlfriend and her female friends all took my side. Basically told her she was being crazy. That does not happen very much at all. She was over it by that afternoon after school, but man did she lose it during that lunch. Story 12. Oh boy, I have a few. She had a dream that I cheated on her, woke me up and was mad at me for it. Didn't talk to me for the next 8 hours based on what she dreamt in her own head. While in law school, she once found a post-it note with my name on it that wasn't in my handwriting. Some assignment from a teacher. So automatically that means I'm cheating on her. Because if I was cheating, why wouldn't I get someone else to write my name in a post-it note? Didn't talk to me for 4 hours. Got mad at me for having seen He's Not That Into You or whatever chick flick it was with an ex years before we dated. Only for about 2 hours she didn't talk to me there. Would frequently get blacked out hammered, do awful things she wouldn't remember and then get mad at me when I would confront her about it and say that I shouldn't bring those things up because she can't remember them. Those things include knocking me over one time while we were arguing and I was trying to walk away, on crutches. Basically, any time I looked at, talked to, or was in the presence of a woman meant that I was cheating on her and or I wanted to have intimacy with that person. All the same person. Yeah, that was not a fun time. Story 13. So my ex, we were dating at the time, and I were walking around London. I didn't have any money and was about to fly home to America the next day. We had been drinking that night, but I told him that we didn't have to go to any more bars so we could save money. However, he insisted that we go to one last bar. This time, his hammered self asked me to buy the drinks, and I said I couldn't afford them. He paid and then passive-aggressively didn't speak to me the rest of the time at the bar. When we left to walk home, he started giving me talks about how I never paid for anything, etc. I tried to explain that I had said that I didn't have any money, but he just kept yelling at me to apologize. Neither of us would give in. I wouldn't admit that he was right, and he was too hammered to admit that I had said I was broke. That at some point he insinuated that I was lucky because I got to live rent-free in a house all summer. He paid for everything, and I got everything I wanted, including intimacy. Well, I got angry, and arguments were always kind of stupid anyway, so I started yelling, "All right, I guess I'm just a freeloading woman," and I stormed off. My ex was chasing me down the street, and I guess at some point he had a change of heart about the money situation, so he's yelling at me, "Don't you dare call yourself that!" And I was yelling, "I can call myself that if I want to." We ended up making up a few minutes later, but to this day, the stupidest fight I've ever had with someone I've dated is me calling myself a freeloading woman and him telling me to stop. Story 14. Number 1. Girlfriend calls me while I'm playing Ultimate Frisbee. Obviously, I don't answer. She gets my friend and his girlfriend, let's call her M, to call me, along with her multiple times because I don't pick up. Once out of the game, I look at my phone with the 17 missed calls from girlfriend, friend, and M. I hit double send. Did have a smartphone. Figured I'll call back whoever called me last since it's clear they're all together. M picks up, hands phone to girlfriend, make plans. Later, girlfriend screams at me for calling M back instead of her and that I'm obviously in love with M. I had a thing for her roughly 2 years before that, but not anymore. We fight and I'm stupefied at the ridiculousness of why she's mad at me. Number 2, girlfriend called me the night the Red Sox won the WS in 2013. I'm out on the streets of our smallest university partying. She begs me to come to the bar down the street where she and some of my other friends, including M, are drinking and dancing. She finally convinces me to come over, I pay the cover, Head to my group of friends where girlfriend is nowhere to be found. M, who is extremely intoxicated, attempts to dance with me. I politely push her away. Girlfriend sees an erection between me and M and assumes that I let her grind all over me, but in fact I pushed her away. She runs out the bar crying that I was all over M. Still untrue, and yells at me. I continue to tell her that this is a ridiculous misunderstanding and that I wouldn't do anything like that. She doesn't believe me. We have a ridiculous fight the entire night in which she damn near breaks the door down of my friend's apartment and they have to threaten to call the cops to get her to leave. Unfortunately, myself, my young self, could not see I was clearly in a toxic relationship. My friends eventually convinced me and I broke up with her, only to find out she got pregnant 3 weeks later. Anyways, if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 15. My wife was on to me about getting my daughter, her stepdaughter, to do some yard work to honor her commitment. Daughter did a bad job and in a semi-panic, I took over the whacker and removed some daisies. Now her whole yard looks like garbage. You have this hill, totally beyond follow and now feral. Inside the house, basically a wholesome slum. Clutter but no garbage. We have bare walls in the house and electric cords where the walls aren't bare. I have no visual design sense and she admits she has less. But these daisies, the most important things in the universe. She was literally sobbing in the yard at 3 a.m., mourning them so hard I could hear her inside with the windows closed, which meant the neighbors could too. I went from the guy who had single-handedly kept the backyard from being completely lost to useless. This went on for a month because I don't know how to grovel. Then on the anniversary of her loss, she brings it up again because I apparently don't feel bad enough. I mentioned that I have never had thoughts of divorce until now. She took the hint and has not mentioned it in subsequent years. Daisies, man. Story 16. Had a fight with an ex over a hair elastic he found in his lounge. He flicks this green hair elastic at me, saying that he found one of my hair elastics. I knew it wasn't mine as I didn't own any green elastics and told him so. Apparently, by doing this, I was accusing him of cheating on me. No. The stupid argument went on for 3 days, with him insisting it was mine and getting ridiculously angry at me when I insisted that it wasn't. He even wore it around his wrist in some immature attempt to stir me up. We go over to his mate's house, who happens to have long hair. He spots the elastic on my ex's wrist and exclaims, "Oh, you found my elastic. Thanks, bro." Ex refused to apologize. This is the same ex who put holes in walls and furniture, then blamed me for making him do those things. Needless to say, that relationship didn't last very long. I noped the hell out of that train wreck. Story 17. He was mad that I didn't want him to help me with my homework. To put things in perspective, I was a third-year linguistics major and he was in the process of flunking out of tech school. He woke me up in the middle of the night with a phone call and said I wanted to go back to sleep. He refused to let me. I will never be that much of a doormat again. He started talking about how he would help me in school if I was struggling. I said he didn't need to because the professors at office hours and they would help me. He said no, I should come to him. I said he didn't really have a background in linguistics and he threw a fit and acted like I just called him a moron. Seriously, I was working on morphology and phonetics and acoustics. He couldn't have helped me with my homework any more than I could have helped him with his. He assumed that if I didn't understand something in class, he could Google it and explain it to me. I was just sitting there with my mouth hanging open, unable to believe how ridiculous he was being. This is the same dude who tried to convince me that metric and English were the same. Story 18. My husband adores bickering. We've talked about it before. I hate it, but I have a strong desire to be right or correct him on his views. It leads to interesting arguments. This morning, it was over his phrasing of a question that related to a previous situation we were dealing with. Your paycheck from the end of last month still hasn't been cleared. I got paid on the 1st and 15th of the month, and today is October 2. I haven't even registered that it's October, so I thought he meant my check from the end of August, which absolutely did not clear already. Cue 15 to 20 minutes of irritated texting back and forth, ending in a double apology when I admitted I had not yet eaten any breakfast and I'd spilled the coffee I brought to work. So I was being very sensitive. We had stupid arguments like this probably once a month. I always end up red-faced and breathing hard in anger because of my quick temper, and then he tries to make me laugh because he hates conflict. 15 years together, still going strong. Story 19. Back when Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, came out, my boyfriend, now ex, was mad that I was buying the album. I don't even know why he was being a Kanye hater because he liked Kanye and it was no secret I love Kanye. I think he just needed a reason for the week to be a schmuck. It turned into this huge fight that we have more important things to buy, blah blah blah. I probably yelled
So says the guy who wastes money on video games every week. Besides, it was my own money. We each had our own to buy whatever we wanted. Anyway, he threatened to throw away my CD if I bought it. I told him if he did, I would buy 10 of them with money from our joint checking, blah blah blah. More yelling. I ended up getting the CD, put it in a CD player because, like I told him, it's my car and I'm playing Kanye. If he doesn't like it, then walk. I knew he liked the album but had to sit there in silence to make a point. We actually fought about Kanye a lot. Story 20. We got into a fight over a dog mess. We were on a walk and I mentioned it'd be nice to have a dog. She hates dogs, so I wasn't too serious about it. She said, well, if we own one, you'll have to clean up its mess in the backyard. I said that I wasn't doing that. I'd pick up after the dog on a walk, but if it makes a mess in her backyard, well, that's going to happen. I'm not about to sweep the yard every day for its droppings. She kept pushing it. You have to clean up after the dog. I will, but not if it makes a mess in the yard. I was so floored by how upset she was over this hypothetical dog that I started laughing. She storms off towards the house and slams the door, which made me laugh harder. My mistake was following her and still laughing over it. She was not amused at all. I tried to put my arms around her, but she fought me off. I took it as she was wrestling, so I started wrestling like you would with a sibling. I immediately stopped and walked off the rage that spurred out in that moment. I avoided her for most of the day. She never apologized. I brought it up once afterwards, and all I got was, well, you were making me angry. Jesus. Anyway, now I'm divorced. Story 21. So my girlfriend and I went to watch Interstellar, which happens to have Ben Affleck's brother Casey Affleck or something. During the movie, I was like, I think that's Ben Affleck, but his jaw seems different. He has a beard in the movie, and he's got brown hair. Maybe he dyed his hair or something. I need to preface this with my girlfriend being an absolute person. You're not just wrong, you're stupid for thinking what you thought. She said there's no way that it's Ben Affleck, that I was blind, that he looked nothing like him. Well, we IMDb that movie, and after we find out it's his brother, I was like, oh, well, see, I was close. It wasn't Ben, but it was his brother. She refused to budge an inch, and we ended up screaming at each other the whole car ride home. That stuff comes up still, and I still maintain I'm obviously not stupid for thinking that a pair of brothers look similar. Jesus Christ, still makes me mad. Story 22. My first significant other and I were each other's firsts, and as such, we were having fun exploring anything and everything. One day he had me on the bed, and after he suddenly dove straight for my armpit, I backed as far into my bed as I could and shouted, "What are you doing?" He kept trying, so I rolled away, resulting in me falling off the bed. I was hurting as I pulled myself back up. What in the world was that? He just looked frustrated and turned his back on me. Okay, I'm sorry for laughing. I snort as I say this, trying to hold back. Just tell me why you did that. He turned to look at me with tears in his eyes. Stop laughing, it's not funny, he snapped. Sorry, I just don't understand. Don't get upset, but please explain why you were trying to, do stuff with my armpit. He then told me he had read somewhere online that your armpit was an erogenous zone that some girls liked when you made out with it. I was laughing so hard and he got angry and then told him that it was disgusting as I sweat from there and put deodorant there, which wouldn't taste very good. He got so mad he put his pants on and stormed out. I apologized for making fun of him, but I don't think he ever got over it. Anytime I lifted my arm and showed him my armpit while raising my eyebrows at him, he'd be mad and I'd be laughing so hard. Story 23. Me and my girlfriend frequently have just for fun play arguments for giggles. I imagine others would find it weird, but we find it amusing and comforting to know that we can talk to each other without any feelings being hurt. Last night while out at dinner and after a few drinks, we were both talking over, mocking and interrupting each other whilst trying to prove our points. We were having a blast, to say the least. At some point, I wanted to actually say something I felt was important and of significance, so I got serious, put on my straight face, and after more back and forth annoying banter, I told her, I'm trying to communicate with you, shut up. Then proceeded on to my argument without missing a single beat. I didn't even realize the ridiculousness of what I just said. She broke down in laughter and happy tears, and she almost fell out of her chair. Story 24. We were taking a break from Dead Space 3, I think, because things got too intense, so we put Minecraft in. Well, the relaxation didn't last long. This schmuck kept saying my castle looked bad. Can you believe that? Then he built a wall of lava to separate our territory, only because he knew I'd think it would be ugly and want it gone. He then proceeded to call me something ridiculous. I know, over and over while I pout about how ugly the wall is. He took it too far by blowing my wizard tower up. I really didn't expect it. My voice was shaking and I was whispering, trying not to cry. I could only say, "Tears in my eyes. Oh my goodness." I have no idea why I was so worked up and emotional that night. I took Minecraft out of my Xbox and left the party. He texted me a minute later asking if I'm okay. Our screaming match about how he blew up my tower, and it certainly did not look bad, and he took it too far. We haven't played Minecraft since. Story 25. I was driving to my mom's house with my girlfriend, and she had her music playing. I really couldn't be listening to it, so I asked her to turn it down. The dial said the volume was 10. She refused, so I lowered it to 8, hoping for some kind of compromise. She raised it, I lowered it, she raised it along with her voice, I returned the favor, and repeated this for the next 10 minutes. Eventually, we're outright screaming at each other, and I ended up pulling over telling her to get out of the car. She, of course, refused, and I drove away somewhat defeated. The argument continued, so I yanked the cable out and Ed Sheeran ceased playing. A few minutes later, I put the radio on and the process reversed. I wanted the volume up. She would turn it off, etc., etc. I cranked the music right up, covering the dial with my hand as we were both screaming in each other's face. Right at that moment, the same Ed Sheeran song that she was listening to came on. I immediately pushed the button to turn it off. We both asynchronously realized how stupid we were being and both burst out laughing for the next 20 minutes. Story 26. We've been together for 6 years and we argue over stupid stuff all the time. Like what to get at the grocery and then laugh about it later. Our first argument occurred around 2 to 3 months of dating. We were on a double date with our friends at a steakhouse, and being a healthy person, I ordered 2 sides of the mixed veggies with my fish. I don't eat red meat, instead of a potato or something fried. When my food comes out, it's just a massive heap of broccoli. No carrots, no cauliflower, just a plate full of steamed broccoli. I love broccoli, but it wasn't what I was expecting. It's certainly not a mountain of it. So I complained a little bit and was obviously dissatisfied, but not enough to bother our server about it. But this turned into a huge deal because my girlfriend was upset that I wouldn't tell the waitress that I didn't get what I ordered. So we started arguing back and forth about me not wanting to say anything to our waitress. Finally, she tells the waitress herself, which kind of humiliated me because it became one of those things where the argument is bigger than its source, and we find out they changed their veggies and there's nothing they can do. My girlfriend ended up giving me the silent treatment the rest of the night and ended taking a 3-day break from each other. We tell that story all the time and just laugh about it now. Story 27. Ex-girlfriend had a strange night out while I was home late at night doing homework. She went right to bed. And about 30 minutes later, she was up again, rinsing the remote control out in the sink. Evidently, she tried to carry a mess in the battery compartment to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom after having an awkward conversation with her about the accident she had. There in the bed was about 9 more inches of mess just chilling on her sheets. I thought that must have felt great, but it was no accident. About a year later, I went out with a friend and got blackout hammered and ended up retching over the edge of the bed. She came home and told me how gross I was and how disappointed she was. Long story short, I had the old "you made a mess in the bed" card that I was so calm about the night of said event. I'm not sure how the argument lasted as long as it did, but it mostly ended with, "I'll tell the world that I retched on the side of the bed. Your thing." Story 28. My boyfriend and I got into a 2-hour argument on Mac versus PC. It was insane. I really like to play devil's advocate, and he was unreasonably snotty about Macs. We're both so stubborn that we just stood in the kitchen and argued while we made and ate dinner together. It got heated a few times, but was overall just a weird debate. I just wanted him to agree that PCs were also awesome computers, for various reasons. He was firm that all Apple computers were the best. The conversation went deep. After things cooled down, our roommate came out of his room. We didn't think he was home and spoke loudly and offensively. He heard everything we said. We share a small apartment with his door outside the kitchen. For 2 hours straight. He wanted to come out to greet us when we finished our talk, but we discussed this stupid topic for so long he couldn't escape. The best part? My boyfriend got me a wonderful MacBook Pro for my birthday a few weeks later. I was curious to try out Macs and really needed a new computer. I thought I made him really mad about the argument, and he thought I was mad. It was a super sweet gift. Story 29. The ex and I were going to have people over for Thanksgiving dinner, so I spent all day cleaning the apartment and making the 3-course dinner with zero help from Mr. Call of Duty. Got everything done, food is smelling amazing, time to get dressed as everyone would be there within the hour. He comes into the kitchen, looks at all of the dishes lined up in order for when to reheat. Cod. Looks good. Where are the giblets? The what? The giblets. Oh no, I bet they were in that white bag. I left it on the counter over there when I started cooking. Oh yeah, here they are. They've been out since I put the turkey in, so they've probably gone off. Well, this dinner's just ruined. God, how could you forget the giblets? Are you serious? Storms out. Launches head of garlic a retreating schmuck. Ended up spending 2 minutes shell-shocked in the kitchen and proceeding to the living room, where someone was playing COD again. Canceled the party because I could not get my rage back to an acceptable level in time. I don't think we spoke for the rest of the holiday weekend, and we ended up breaking up a few months later. Super embarrassing part? I had a job interview a few years later that had a very detailed background check. Had to own up to throwing a head of garlic at someone during a fight. I still hate giblets. Story 30. Oh man, I wish I'd seen this earlier. So my now ex-wife and I were at a rocky point in our relationship. I was thinking about getting a new car for my commute. We always used hers on the weekend, so it made sense for me to have something more economical for my 100 trek to work and back. This was right around the time the smart car hit the States. I thought it looked kind of fun, got good miles, and it was cheap. She was adamant that I not buy it because it was so small I can't possibly be safe. Being the know-it-all that I am, I compiled all the data I possibly could find. Crash tests, results, videos of wrecks, the physics behind why the Tridon shall make the car safe despite its size. She still wouldn't budge, because she didn't feel like it would be safe. At this point, I should mention that at the time, she worked for Mercedes-Benz as a receptionist. The next day, she came home all aglow and said, "The sales guys at the dealership agree with me. They said it's not safe. So ha!" To which I replied, "So let me get this straight. I showed you pages and pages of evidence. I showed you videos of crash tests and explained the scientific evidence behind it all. These guys said they agreed with you but offered nothing to refute what I've shown you. And you're going to take their word over not just the data I've given you, but my word as your husband that this is a safe car?" She happily nodded away and I continued, "Well then, your friends are idiots and you're a moron for believing them." The next day she asked me to move out. That's right, ladies and gents. The smart car is the reason my wife divorced me. Clearly we were having other issues, but now that we're on friendly terms, it's fun to joke about. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.